And good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn. He's Griffin. Lots to do on the program today. Coming up a little bit later on, our weekly chat with Jeremy Conn. Al Bernstein from Showtime is going to join us after Tank Davis got the 7th round knockout against Ryan Garcia. We'll talk about that this morning. And Coach Tony Skinn, new head basketball coach at his alma mater. George Mason spent, of course, last season with Kevin Willard at Maryland. We'll talk to him about what it is that Kevin Willard did so successfully and his new gig, obviously. We'll do that coming up today on the program. We begin, of course, as we do every day, with an update of the Lamar-O-Meter. And I found something really interesting. I say I found it. It was sent to me. Our buddy Aaron Oster from the Circa out in Las Vegas was perusing some betting things. And he came across a bet that you can make right now if you were to wander over to betonline.ag. Now, of course, we can bet legally in the state of Maryland now, so we don't need to do that. We can go to pressboxonline.com/offers, and we can take advantage of great sign-up bonuses and incentives in order to bet here in the state of Maryland, and so we'd rather do that. Like, for example, we can get 5-second chance bets at PointsBet when we deposit and bet our first $50. We can go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to take advantage of that particular incentive, and we have to go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers in order to do it. I won a little bit of money on Tank this weekend. I then got froggy, as I'm one to do, and I turned around and I lost some money on a basketball game. I don't remember which one it was, but
all of them.
I know. I immediately when I won a little bit of money, I'm like, I'm gonna reinvest that, and it was gone just that quickly. But if you were so inclined, you could go right now to betonline.ag and you would find these odds. Lamar Jackson, Week 1, 2023. Start for any other team. A -155 favorite. Start for the Ravens. +125. Does not start for any team, +550. So obviously that would be if he were to hold out. Of course, actually, technically, it would be if he were to get hurt again as well. So maybe there's some juice there at +550. And I have two things. First, I'm going to give somebody a $25 Glory Days Grill gift card today because I want to know, as a bettor, what are you doing with this and why? Like, you're being told that you've got to make a bet with these odds. How you doing it and why? So you get that in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, and you can be registered to win a $25 gift card today to Glory Days Grill. But as far as the Lamar-O-Meter is concerned, my question is, should it impact what today's reading is? Like, should this information, the fact that a major betting company, even though it's not an American sports book, a major betting company is offering you plus odds for Lamar Jackson to start in Week 1 for the Baltimore Ravens. That would suggest that BetOnline's internal Lamar-O-Meter ain't even 50-50. Actually, I have no idea if that math works out. I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Point being, they don't think it's 95%. They thought that it would probably be something like that fight before the Gervonta fight on Saturday night.
-11.
No, it was minus like 3,000 or whatever. -2. The co-main event of the night, Morrell, I believe was his name, -2,000. Now, in fairness, I did no prep on this and had no idea. And when I was watching, I said, "This is the co-main event of the night, and he's a -2,000 favorite." And then about 20 seconds later, I understood exactly why. Wait until we finish Lamar-O-Meter, and then you can deal with that. I understood exactly why. Apparently, this other dude got 10 days' notice to take the fight and should not have been in the fight.
Good payday for him.
I'm sure it was a good payday, but it was severe pain.
Co-main.
Severe pain. It was over quickly, and then they was vamping for a little while, baby. There was some vamping going on leading up to the main event. Now, moral of the story. Let's get to that. Moral of the story is how did this impact the Lamar-O-Meter? Because otherwise there was nothing that went on this weekend. Apparently Lamar was hanging out at his soul food restaurant in Florida watching the fight on Saturday night.
The meter should go up based on his Instagram stories because he's very excited for fellow Baltimorean Gervonta Davis.
Oh, he's always been. There's always been a connection. Gervonta, we've seen Gervonta wear Lamar Jackson jerseys on fight nights before. Like, there's always been a friendship there. Apparently Odell Beckham was in Vegas at the fight hanging out with Gervonta on Saturday night. That doesn't do a whole lot for me, but this is interesting. Why would a betting company list the favorite for Lamar in week 1 to be playing for any other team but the Ravens? I tried to poke in on that. I went back and forth with Aaron because he's my betting expert. I said, is it possible that's just a mathematical reflection of the Ravens just being one team, whereas the other teams are 31 other teams, and math says there's a greater chance of 31 other teams than one team? And the answer was no. That's not how these things go. Like, you wouldn't see the same thing if, if it was presented for other players. Where are they going to be playing next year? Almost always the team that they're on is the team that's the favorite. So, no, it's not that way. But this is 1 versus 31. This isn't 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1. So could it have an impact? Perhaps. I don't know. And it's also, keep in mind, I believe I was informed, there's a, hang on a second. It's a very low limit bet. So
like a $50 cap or something?
Yeah, you can't make, even if it is $50. They do this with professional wrestling, for example, where, like, somebody knows, so they don't allow you to bet a lot of money because Vince McMahon could just, and his creepy mustache, could just turn around and say, hey, go bet $70,000 on the Big Show to win. The Big Show's not in WWE, but you get my point, right? Like, he could do that because he knows who's going to win the match. So they do low caps for WWE betting on Bet Online. And I think if it comes to the States, then there will be low caps on WWE betting there as well. I don't know what to make of it. I genuinely don't. But it's just enough for me.
Uh-oh. No.
Just slightly. Just slightly. 92%. And I want you to share that when you tweet it out. I want you to be like, look, Glenn's not convinced this is anything, but it's just enough that he's going to tick it slightly. 92%. That's all. Still overwhelmingly sure that Lamar Jackson will be the week 1 quarterback. But why is Bet Online offering you plus odds for him to start for the Ravens at this point? Why would that be the case? I feel like Brian Windhorst right now. What's going on at Bet Online? Something really strange is happening at Bet Online. Does Windhorst have that high-pitched a voice? Why do I feel like he's got a high-pitched voice? He doesn't really. It's more like kind of gravelly. I don't know how to explain it. Like, what's going on?
It's very soft.
Right, it's soft for sure.
Yeah.
What's going on at Bet Online? Weird things going on.
Something's happening
at Bet Online. What's going on? After he would do a 5-minute diatribe about it and then get to that point. So I feel a little bit like Brian Windhorst right now, or Windy.
He'd paint the timeline. He'd be like, so Bet Online.
Right. On April 4th, Bet Online.
This bet wasn't available.
Didn't offer these odds. Now, on April 4th, we all thought there was a better chance of Lamar Jackson ending up somewhere else. But they didn't offer the odds. It wasn't until after Odell Beckham arrived in Baltimore and they went out clubbing that Bet Online posted these odds. I've been asking around, what's going on?
Come Easter Sunday.
Sunday, all of a sudden.
Was in Miami.
Yeah, I don't know. And it could be absolutely nothing. It could be, and it was pointed out to me by someone else I asked about it, it's also possible. I have said before, one of the greatest days of my life was when I was perusing Bet Online, when I was in the darkest of my dark days, when I was betting Ukrainian ping pong, which definitely was a thing that occurred. 1-800-GAMBLER. It's a reminder. 1-800-GAMBLER. When I was betting Ukrainian ping pong, I was perusing the entire Bet Online website. Again, these are in the before times. before you were able to just go over to pressboxonline.com/offers and sign up for all these great offers. And one of the bets that I happened to find was who will win the next humans versus alien war.
The next?
I found
the next?
Yes. I found that. Hang on a second.
First?
I wish I could find. I gotta find because I shared it, and I did like a week's worth. I believe it was in the middle of the pandemic, so we did like a week's worth of content about it. It was glorious. I know Jeremy stole it from me and went over to 105.7 and did like a week's worth of content about it. Like it could not have been better. Here we go. This was from July. It was not in the throes of the pandemic. It was July 19th, 2021, and I found this. Said odds to win the next alien versus human war. By the way,
The next. I can't get over the next.
this is legitimate. This was really a thing that you could bet on betonline.ag.
The humans were only
in the
minus
before
150.
times. And the humans, for whatever insane reason, were minus 150 favorites. And now we did a lot of content about this topic. And I dug into it and I said, well, that's only because there's no way to cash out if the aliens win. You have to bet humans. Because it's your only chance of getting your money back. So they have to make the humans the favorites here. Because if you bet on the aliens, you're just throwing away your money. You're never getting it.
Well, maybe there was going to be a peaceful transfer of
peaceful transfer of
aliens taking over the sports
human
books.
to alien power.
The aliens are going to realize that the
No.
sports book there's something here.
There's something here.
We're gonna take.
Let's
care
not
of that.
wreck the
Yeah.
entire planet. By the way, Lamar-O-Meter brought to you by Glory Days Grill. As I said before, Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports, 92%. But the point being, they sometimes do these things. We're like, I don't know when they posted this human versus alien war prop. I don't know if they posted it on July 19th, 2021, or if they posted it in 2007 and have just sort of left it up there and haven't, like, it's in a part of the website that they don't monitor all that much. So I don't know how to make sense of this prop that they have offered related to Lamar Jackson's, where he's going to be in week 1. I don't know whether or not I should believe that it's actually a thing. But I don't know that I can completely dismiss it either. I'm in a strange place with it. It exists. It's a number. I would feel differently if it were on an American sports book. If it were on an American sports book, like, I'd be more convinced that somebody knows something. On Bet Online, I do think it's possible to they're trying to get you to go make a bet. They're trying to, by the way, successfully, they're getting me to advertise it, right? Like, that they're trying to get you to go make a bet and then get involved with Bet Online. I am more inclined to think that's possible. That's why I'm not going to tick it much. I ticked it a couple of percent, just a couple, in order to reflect the fact that this is weird information that was presented to me. It's weird that you can go to an actual site and that you can bet plus odds for Lamar Jackson to be the week 1 starter for the Baltimore Ravens, given everything we know. Aaron was trying to convince me that the actions on doesn't start anywhere in week 1. He was like, dude, that's the juice is there. You make that bet. And I was like, nah, I'm not.
I guess if you think there's any chance, then you're getting plus 550.
I understand. There is still the world in which the Ravens believe that Lamar Jackson's going to play for $32 million, and Lamar Jackson says, the hell I am. And they say, well, tough. Like, that's the deal. Like, we did everything. That's what we offered you, is $32 million to be the quarterback this season. And then Lamar holds out into the regular season. I just don't see that happening. I don't buy it. Not today. I might feel very silly in a couple of weeks. It might be that in a couple of weeks I sit back and I say, there was a really good chance to get some juice on that. And what would it, even if it was like a $50 max bet, that would pay out like $250. That'd be very much worth it. But today, I don't think that's the case. I still think that those odds are a little bit off. But again, I'm going to hook somebody up with a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill just for responding, and the Lamar-O-Meter moves to 92%. All right, we're going to get into the Orioles this morning here on GCR. A lot to discuss after they sweep the Tigers this weekend. It was not always so certain. There were a lot of nervy moments in a weekend sweep of the Tigers between Friday and Sunday, but ultimately they got the job done in both games. You can, by the way, thank Rita and I again yesterday because once again we were on the air while the Orioles were being no-hit, and we were talking about it, and so we were able to successfully jinx it. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sometimes a hero comes along. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the Orioles are being perfect gamed. Almost no chance they'll end up getting a hit. We're probably going to see a perfect game today. You're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome.
It's very brave of you.
I don't really know any of the other words to that song. You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's a good song.
I think it's not a good song.
It is. Dwayne Johnson.
He's not a good singer.
Talking about being a god.
I understand. I don't know. I don't know a single other word except for what can I say except you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's sort of like the Peaches song. Peaches, 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 peaches. The point of all this being,
when you're staring at a demigod, what else can you say except?
Okay, we don't need to spend this much time on it, I promise. The point of it being, we broke it up, so you're welcome. Now, also, I reflect a couple of things today in my column at PressBoxOnline.com, which is either already up or will be coming. The things I reflect are, boy, how funny is it that a week ago we were panicked, talking about Panic at the Disco when it came to Orioles pitching, and now all of a sudden they're the Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz Braves of the 1990s. 3 total runs over the last, 3 total runs over the last 54 innings because it was 10 innings yesterday and the last 8 innings of last Sunday. I had to do that math a couple times in my head to make sure I had it right. 6 games, but it's just a little wonky because it's everything after the first inning.
It's essentially 9.
And
all 9 inning games, but
right, it was 10 yesterday and 8 on Sunday. So it works out to being like 6 9-inning games. It's just not exactly 6 9-inning games. 54 innings, 3 total runs. And again, we were panicked. Our hair was on fire. We were losing our minds about where Orioles pitching was before that. Now, all of a sudden, nobody can touch them. Of course, part of that story is they played the Nationals and the Tigers for 5 of those games. I understand that we're probably not going to be judging what the Orioles do specifically against those teams and trying to figure out exactly where they are pitching-wise. But to be fair, this is the nice part about not having to play so many games against the AL East this season, is that you do get to play more of these games. This is why I thought the win total was not accurate before the season for all the various betting sites, because I thought the Orioles were going to be able to take advantage of playing more games against these types of teams. The question is, where is the Orioles pitching between what we saw for the 2 weeks that begin the season versus last week? Because they were probably never as bad as they looked for 2 weeks, and they probably aren't quite as good as they were last week. No way to have that answer. The interesting conundrum that I also reflect today in the column is the thing that you and I felt last week when we started thinking about having to make roster moves. Like, what are you doing? Both Dylan Tate and Michael Givens are slated to start rehab assignments this week, as was announced over the weekend. Now, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take, and it's easy for all of us to sit back and say, well, Keegan Aiken is the first guy on the chopping block. Like, okay, probably. Keegan Aiken probably is the first guy on the chopping block. But then who? Because you got 2 pitchers coming in. Now, that could be solved for you, right? It's totally possible that between now and then someone else gets hurt or goes on a bereavement list or a paternity list or something like that, and that makes your life a little bit easier for a moment. Or it's also possible that someone pitches so poorly over the course of the next week and a half that makes your move for you. But outside of that, it opens up another conversation, which goes back to the topic of liftoff, and I dive into this. I was really pleased that the Orioles didn't try to hold on to Andrew Politi. I've said this a million times. When you're a bad baseball team that's not trying to win, it makes sense to try to find talent in the Rule 5 draft, right? Like, what else are you going to use that roster spot for? Another bad player? Of course. You go try to see if this Tyler Wells guy might be somebody that could help. The answer is yes. That Tyler Wells guy is someone who's been very helpful. It made all the sense in the world in 2020 for the Orioles to be taking a shot on Tyler Wells and saying, here, you can have a roster spot in a season where we don't think we're going to be any good. Very logical. Or 2021, whatever that was. 2021.
Yeah, I guess it was 21.
Makes sense. Now, the Orioles are competitive. And the idea that you can go in and try to win 25 on 26 and say, we can beat you despite the fact that we don't have as many major league players as you do. That's nonsense. Now, if you want to use the pick, and if Andrew Politi had mowed through spring training, and it looked like, boy, everybody missed this guy. This is a guy that can help now. Well, then that's one thing. You give it a shot. If he falls apart early in the year, you move on from it. Nobody knew that Yenny or Cano was going to be this guy either. But he didn't. He didn't pitch well in spring training, and the Orioles rightfully said, we're not just going to waste a roster spot in a year in which we're trying to contend. Maybe one day Andrew Politi will be a thing. I feel like there was somebody else that the Orioles used a pick on. Nestor Cortez, right? The Orioles used a pick on Nestor Cortez, couldn't justify the roster spot all season long, and ultimately they regret it, right? Nestor Cortez has proven to be a high-level major league pitcher. It's a bummer. Particular bummer because it's the Yankees. Yeah. Really particular bummer because it's the Yankees.
In San Diego.
Right, no one would care. But because it's the Yankees, damn it. It's not supposed to be the case. But you respect him. What year was Cortez?
Was that 18? No.
Oh, God. That would really. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, it would make it so much worse if that was the case. God, I don't even want to know. I kind of want to never think about it again. It was 17.
Okay.
And you were still trying to be competitive in 17, right? Yeah, 17 was.
They just missed the playoffs.
Yes, correct. Before they knew that like the bottom was going to fall out, they were still trying to be competitive in 17. And so they put him on the team to begin the season, but in April they felt the squeeze and they had no choice but to offer him back to the Yankees. It's just sort of what it is. They had also attempted to do it. They had tried to do it with two guys that year. Yikes! They tried to do it with Pedro Arroyo. I forgot about that dude that year too. So it's a bummer because maybe Andrew Politi one day will prove to be Nestor Cortez. I hope not, but maybe that's the case. Point being, the Orioles said we've got to compete. That's not liftoff. That's not going and spending lots of money on a free agent, but it's recognizing that we can no longer do the things that we were doing when we stunk. We have to try now. We have to show that we're doing everything in our power in order to win with what we can control. We can't justify Andrew Politi making the team. I appreciate that. There could be a similar circumstance that plays out in the next 2 weeks when it comes to these roster decisions they're going to have to make to get Givens and Tate back on the team. Because I was actually tweeting back and forth with our buddy Paul Valley, the host of the Bat Around. I was going to let him come on today, but he's got something going on. What do you do? If nobody is hurt, if there's no obvious move to make, you can say Keegan Aiken's the first to go. Fine, right? I'll hear that out. He's the first to go. And Keegan Aiken has an option left, so that's an easy decision to make. But then who? Because the guys that have stunk have no options left. Cionel Perez, who's just been train wreck, has no options left. Austin Voth has no options left. And is your long man. Now, you might believe that Michael Baumann could be your long man, but that's not the role you've been using him in so far, so, you just have to make that decision. Given the fact that Austin Voth is stunk, I don't feel like you'd be taking that much of a step backwards if you said, well, Mike Baumann's our long man now. What's the bar? The bar is the guy we were using ain't very good. But they have no options left. So the Orioles could reasonably make the argument that, well, hey, Austin Voth pitched well a season ago. Mike Baumann's pitched well for 3 weeks. We actually have more evidence that Austin Voth is a good major league pitcher than Mike Baumann is. And so...
And since Baumann has an option, right?
And Baumann has an option. So we don't want to run the risk of losing Austin Voth altogether, whereas we wouldn't be running that risk if we sent Baumann down. And heck, somebody's going to get hurt again in 2 weeks. We could always pull him right back up. You could justify that. I don't think this fan base, the hardcores, would love that. I was chatting about it with Paul, and Paul was like, man, it could be Cano. Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
That would suck.
Imagine saying that right now. That Cano, because he's got 2 options. You wouldn't even be using his final option at that point. That Cano would be the guy to go. The guy who's been literally unhittable. Like, you know when we use literally incorrectly? Not this time. Literally unhittable. Imagine saying that to your fan base. Well, we couldn't lose Austin Voth. We couldn't lose CNL Perez. Now, I would be inclined to maybe come up with a magical injury for one of these guys instead, right? Instead of, if you decide, because my point is, at some point you've got to decide that what's happening right now is more important than these other things. Trying to win right now and putting the best 26 guys out there has to be more important at some point than are we running the risk of losing Austin Voth? My answer would be you found Austin Voth a year ago off the scrap heap. You couldn't find another Austin Voth? What is the upside on Austin Voth? I'm not really angry about him about yesterday. He gave up a soft fly ball that, frankly, the throw was there. Probably should have been the final out of the inning. Let's be frank about that. Like, they probably shouldn't have given up a run in that situation. The throw was there. He did a pretty good job given the circumstances. I thought it was insane that he was the guy that was going into the game. What? What? You're doing what? But it reflects on what Stan talks about a lot, which is that Brandon Hyde says, if these are the guys that I have, I'm going to use them. Which I also think has to reflect this decision-making, right? Like, Brandon Hyde's not just going to hide guys in his bullpen, no pun intended, because you want to protect their spot on a roster or the fact that they don't have options left. He's going to say, I have a certain number of pitchers. I have to use the pitchers that I have. So he's going to run Austin Voth out in that type of situation where we're all really scratching our heads like, dude, what are you doing? So at some point, I think the Orioles have to prioritize the now and the fact that in whatever series it's going to be, the Royals series perhaps, that Brandon Hyde is going to need to bring one of these guys out of the bullpen. And the choice could be Austin Voth or Mike Baumann. Now, if Baumann goes out and stinks a couple times this week, then that makes the decision all that much easier, right? Like, okay, it was kind of fool's gold what we saw at the beginning of the year. The truth is that's not really who Mike Baumann is. Just send him back down. But if he doesn't, then what are you doing? And it's a complicated question. I'm not giving you a direct answer to it. I'm not saying that if the Orioles send Baumann down and keep Voth, it means that everything about the organization is a sham. I'm saying that this is the next opportunity to prove a priority. And if they were to expose Austin Voth, it probably would go a long way to get me to believe, like, no, they're doing the things necessary in order to make sure they're prioritizing winning. Clearly, it doesn't compare to spending $100 million on a baseball player. But if they were to do that, it would probably give me more reason to believe that perhaps they would be willing to make a move at the deadline. Do the next thing on the list for prioritizing winning when you have the second best record in the American League right now. I think it's an interesting kind of test that faces the Orioles in the next 2 weeks. And again, it might not actually come to fruition. As I point out, somebody could get hurt. Especially if, I think somebody said that Tate might need like 6 or so appearances before he could even be at the big league level. So that could be a while. And if in the meantime Givens comes up, he'll just be switched out for Aiken and nobody will think about it. So it might be that this answers itself and that the test part of this just goes away. That there's never actually a test that they have to pass. But it could present a test for this organization to show the priority of winning versus the priority of roster manipulation.
So how disappointed are you then if they do end up optioning someone and it's Baumann or Cano? Yeah.
I mean, if they're pitching like this,
right? If they continue, yeah,
it's going to be it's going to be unjustifiable. Like, there's going to be no way you're going to say again. I'll do the thing. I'll say all the right things. Like, they're trying to measure a year's worth of Austin Voth versus a month and a half's worth of, or a month's, whatever it is at that point, worth of Baumann or Cano. But it's a pretty unjustifiable message to send. Remember, a year ago, we were struggling with their decisions at the trade deadline. Because as much of it was that we were disappointed, we could also understand a little bit, like Mancini was going to be gone. So trying to get something for him. The Lopez deal at the moment looks kind of brilliant, right? Like they found Cano. I don't know that Lopez was ever, given what Felix Bautista is, and I get it, he blew a save on Friday night, but still.
There were softly hit ground balls. And if the shift is still
yes,
around.
Correct. And there had to be a stolen base involved. There had to be a lot of things. Like, he blew a save, but given what Felix Bautista is, Jorge Lopez would never be a better option than Felix Bautista at the moment. But Jorge Lopez has been really good in Minnesota. I want to be clear about that. He's been nails this season. I'm getting a little lost in the weeds. I don't want to come back to it. But the point being, like, we'll have to have that conversation. It's unjustifiable, really, if somebody is pitching well, succeeding at the major league level, for them to say, but we want to prioritize roster manipulation. You can't do that anymore. You got to be past that. You got to be at a place where you say, no, winning now is what matters. And I just don't think there's enough of an upside to Austin Voth that I can be all that worked up about him being the guy that goes. If you want to justify CNL Perez by saying, well, we have to have another lefty, like if you're getting rid of Aiken, you're down to Colomé as your only lefty, right? Like you can make that argument about CNL Perez and say, I get it, he's not been good, but there is a little bit of a track record there of him having some success a season ago, and we need to have another lefty available in the bullpen. There's got to be someone who I can listen to that. I can't on Voth, unless, again, he starts pitching much better. I can't on, like, the fear of what it would mean to lose Austin Voth. It just doesn't strike me the same way. But, again, we got time. I'm just putting it out there as a it's the potential for something to be interesting in the coming weeks. The Orioles do shift to a series against the Red Sox, and Dean Kramer goes back under the microscope tonight because for as well as he pitched last week, he did it against the Nationals. This is obviously a far more representative lineup that he's going to be facing tonight against the Red Sox. Even if we think the Red Sox can't pitch, we know that they've got a legit lineup. So he goes back under the microscope, and if he struggles, then we're right back into the conversation about, how long you continue the Dean Kramer experiment this season. So Dean Kramer is on the mound tonight. And then I wanted to share this one piece of audio with you. I mentioned that Reed and I were on 105.7 The Fan yesterday. When you're doing radio and there's an event, another sporting event going on, it's largely known you're not supposed to be doing play-by-play. That's somewhere else. But sometimes things occur that make it very difficult to not react to what you're witnessing with your eyes. And Reed and I were doing a segment yesterday, and she was trying to get me because she was going on about the finale of Snowfall. And I started Snowfall years ago, but then took a break from it, and I need to go back. I tried to start Shrinking this weekend because Jeremy keeps asking me to watch it. I don't know, man. The first episode.
Yeah, really?
It was kind of a chore to me.
Well, after I watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I was like, oh, maybe I do. I'm a big Jason Segel guy.
Well, Jason Segel's amazing.
Yes,
did we ever do that?
I don't think we ever did.
All right, we'll have to do that.
Got that one in the chamber.
We'll have to do that one because Forgetting Sarah Marshall is the most important film. Again, I'm working on my Forgetting Sarah Marshall podcast that I'm going to launch at some point. But something happened as she was talking to me about Snowfall out of the corner of my eye. And I just couldn't help myself, and it led to some really fun radio. This is from yesterday on 105.7 The Fan.
It's a fantastic show.
I'll write it out.
So, yes, check it out. It was excellent.
Mateo's really going to go for home plate.
Yeah, baby.
He is a psychopath. Holy crap.
I love it. I love it.
Dude, when the left fielder, I'm sorry. I know we're not supposed to do play-by-play on.
I love it. Mateo is insane, and I love it.
What a psychopath Jorge Mateo is.
I love Mateo for just saying balls to the walls there. Let's go.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, we got to get a break.
So
sometimes you see some things, and you just don't have a choice but to react to what you're seeing. Like, what the hell?
And credit has to be given to Tony Mansolini.
No question. Tony Mansolino, absolutely.
Gutsy send.
It
worked out.
That is a hell of a send. Jorge Mateo is very, very fast.
No, it works that.
I was actually, because at first, because again, we're doing radio at the same time, I was hoping that he ran through a stop sign. Like, I was hoping that was what we were going to find out, is that Jorge Mateo is just truly as insane as I would suggest, a true psychopath. But no, to your point, Mansolino absolutely gave him the go, and it worked out brilliantly, and it saved the Orioles bacon yesterday on a day where they could do very little offensively. Jorge Mateo's speed was the ultimate difference maker. That and the Tigers not being able to get a ball, literally just throw a ball that the catcher can catch. Those were the two stories as to why the Orioles won the baseball game yesterday. But that was a moment that certainly was electric for us as we were responding to what it was that we were seeing, and what was a pretty damn great play from Jorge Mateo, and a reminder of just how special he's been to start the season this year.
More importantly, looks like his hip is fine.
Yes, appears to be. I mean, if that's on a damaged hip, Jesus Christ. Holy crap. All right, there you go. That was from yesterday on 105.7 The Fan. Hey, today's show is brought to you. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say it's brought to you. It's just going to be a reminder that you can win from PressBox. Have you seen all of Maryland's minor league baseball parks? PressBox is giving you the chance to check all of them out this summer. Head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests right now and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older to enter, and the sweepstakes ends June 14th, so get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest right now to sign up. When we come back in, Tony Skinn is going to join us, former Maryland assistant. Now he's the head man at his alma mater, George Mason. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holiday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Conn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Have been wanting to catch up with our next guest. Obviously, for folks down in the Northern Virginia and D.C. areas, this is an incredibly cool story of him coming all the way back home and taking over now as the head coach at his alma mater, a place where he helped lead to the Final Four once upon a time. We appreciated all the effort that he put in last season at the University of Maryland. He is George Mason head basketball coach Tony Skinn, and he is with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn up in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time, and congratulations, man.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Definitely appreciate you guys having me on board, man. Exciting times in Fairfax right now.
I have no doubt that's true. And I just this seems like one of the great stories in college basketball to me, Coach, right? Like for this to work out this way to you, how emotional were you about this opportunity? And can you put into words what it means for you to be the head coach at George Mason?
Oh, man, I'm still going through it, man. You know, with everything that's going on. Logistically, just trying to figure things out, trying to manage this new opportunity, man. It's I haven't even had time to really soak it in just yet. You know, went through such a quick transition from, you know, competing in the NCAA tournament. I'll take that back. Actually, you know, Big Ten tournament to the NCAA tournament, and then going through this process where I didn't really know which direction they were going to go. You know, I was happy at Maryland. We had a really, really good thing rolling, and so it just happened so fast, and you know, still trying to figure the thing out as I transition.
You know, did you have a moment where you looked around and allowed yourself to sort of soak it all in, as much as you're going through the insanity of all of this, and like, you know, trying to get your feet wet, and you know, you got to do paperwork, and you got to be reminded, like, hey, here's how things have changed over the years, things like that. Did you allow yourself a moment to sort of look around, like, wow, this is real. This has really happened. I'm really back here, and I'm doing this.
Yeah, I would say probably a couple of days leading into the press conference, as they started to put kind of the tribute video together, that was really personalized to kind of retell the story of kind of what myself and my teammates did back in 2006. I think that was the moment that it kind of hit me, you know, maybe a day or two leading to the presser. And then obviously the press conference in itself, you know, just seeing all those familiar faces, you know, gave me a sense of comfort, you know, because again, you take on a new job like most coaches do. You don't really know the place.
Yep.
And for me, that was the one thing that just kind of stood out, seeing my former teammates, you know, seeing certain people in admin that were there. I think that's when it all kind of just hit me, man, because the last time I saw those faces, you know, I was 21 years old, you know, so I would say my press conference.
Yeah, my friend Bill Rowland's still there all these years later. He hasn't gone anywhere. He's still
Bill was the MC, man. So like I said, I went from being a little nervous to being a little bit more comfortable when I saw guys like Bill.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Coach, I want to talk about your time at Maryland, but before we do that, can you – it is a different world, right? Like since you were there as a player, a conference change, and maybe a little bit more difficult, although I think people forget how good the CAA was when you guys were in it back then. What all else has changed? Like, how is it different now at George Mason than maybe it was in the mid-2000s? And then, you know, what gives you the confidence that you can step right back in and sort of get that program right back to that point where you can compete to make NCAA tournament runs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different place for sure. I would say just the landscape in general, you know, I'm biased. You know, the DMV is a place where, and I've said this before and I'll continue to say it, you can find talent, and there's enough talent in this area to where, you know, after Georgetown and Maryland snatches up the high-level guys, there's still enough guys for this level to be able to compete in the A-10. And like you said, you know, the CAA was a really, really good league. I think people forget how good VCU was. Obviously, we did our thing, but like the Wilmington was really good. Hofstra was really good. You know, this league is just as competitive, and I think there is there's a certain level of demographic, not only in this area, but really nationally, to where you can get the right pieces to be able to compete and win this league. the experience that I've had in different places and just learning how to navigate, getting the right guys. Obviously it's a little bit different now too with the portal. Watching high school is definitely important. But it's just having a really good balance. But just to go back to your original question, man, it's a different place. But again, the one thing that I was comfortable with in going through the process is, when most people go through that process, they don't know or expect anything. And I kind of had the cheat code of just knowing certain things that made me comfortable with, coming back to my alma mater.
That's really cool. Tony Skinn, George Mason basketball coach, with us here on GCR. Coach, obviously, you spent last season with Kevin Willard, but you had spent time with him before that, and that kind of jumped out to me as Maryland fans got really excited about this guy in a very short amount of time. Right? You clearly think something about the guy because you signed up for him twice. What is it to you that makes Kevin Willard so special, and why were you guys able? It's so difficult when you come in and you're left with what you're left with, and you don't have the opportunity to get a recruiting class in. How were you guys able to do this so quickly and get this thing turned around?
Well, yeah, for sure. For one, I've spent 3+ years with them in South Orange at Seton Hall, and I didn't want to leave then, to be honest with you. It's getting that opportunity to just make a jump in my career to go to Ohio State, where jobs like that, if you don't play there or if you're not on a staff that, maybe bumped up and got the job there, it's hard to get those jobs. And so for me, having that opportunity to just kind of grow, it was something that, I reluctantly did. But the irony and the full circle of basketball, man, it brought Coach Willard back to Maryland. And, I was his first call. And so for me, it was a no-brainer to have a chance to come back home with somebody that I was familiar with. It all just kind of happened, man. And, I knew what Kevin Willard could bring to Maryland. I think there were a lot of people initially that, they wanted a bigger name, a sexier name, or whatever it may be. But I knew with the way he worked and with the way we were going to assemble that staff, we were going to appease to the diehard Maryland fans, as I would say it.
Yep.
But, Kevin Willard, he's a real person. He's a fun person to work around, work for, and he really gives his assistants and the staff just, autonomy to kind of be themselves and to help him, So I enjoyed my time with him, and, it wasn't easy leaving, but this is probably the only situation. It would have been the only situation that I had no choice.
I think everybody on the planet understands your decision, Coach. I think it's really easy to figure out why it was the right move for you to make. What I'm interested in, too, is the guys that you inherited, right? Like Juju Reese, and then bringing in a Jameer Young and a local kid, and how much it meant. You also know, because you helped put together this recruiting class that Kevin Willard's going to have next year. Maybe there's a world in which you're trying to get them on the schedule next year and you don't want to talk them up too much. So I'll understand if you got to be careful on this. But I think there's a real excitement level. And, of course, we all know there's another name that lingers out there that Maryland's trying to land, and that would be significant. But what that program might be capable of. When you say, hey, it was difficult to leave, is part of that thinking like out loud, the talent base that they have, there's a chance for Maryland to make a really deep type of tournament run a year from now.
No, absolutely. I mean, that was part of it, because I helped recruit some, those kids. And when you build that type of rapport and trust, it's really, really hard. And, with that said, I mean, that class is, I'm excited, even though I'm going to be wearing green and gold, man.
Yeah.
I'm cheering on for the Terps, man, because, Deshaun Harris-Smith, who I think is a pro, Jamie Kaiser, who I think is a pro, John is going to be really, really, really good. It's definitely exciting times in College Park, and it's still growing. They're in the mix with some high-level, transfers now and high-level 2024. I think the best days of Maryland basketball is ahead. You guys got a chance to see how exciting that program is based on Kevin Willard's, basketball mind. And that only gets better once you have an opportunity to really start putting the pieces together that you actually recruit and not necessarily inherited. And it's no knock to some of those guys, because that perfect balance is what made us so good this past year. And having guys like Juju, who still has, 2 more years to play.
Yep.
I mean, it's, skies is the limit for sure in College Park.
I want to come back to you for a second. I was talking to our buddy Dwayne Simpkins the other day, and I love Dwayne. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. And he threw out this like kind of idea. You referenced the way things are changed now with NIL and the portal, but he threw out this idea of like, man, I'm going to be bugging, Willard. I'm going to say, if you've got a guy there that just can't crack through, give him my number. Like I want to work that way, and I'll go the same way. If I've got a guy that's having success that wants a higher challenge, I'll give him your number, and we'll try to make something like this work. And it was kind of crazy when he presented it, because I was like, well, I've never heard of anything like that before. And I get that you're at a higher level. I understand that George Mason is a higher place than American is. But like, is there some world where, like, coaching connection-wise now, you guys can start doing those types of things and saying, hey, look, we get it now. This is just the way the sport is going to work moving forward. We need to try to maybe forge some partnerships and find places where we can find the right fit for the right guy as their career goes along.
Yeah, it's the crazy world of recruiting, man. I'm glad Dwayne said that, because it's been going on anyway.
Okay.
The word for it is probably tampering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coaches have been doing this for a long time. But when you're in the DMV, man, the business, it's hard to make everybody happy. Expectations, they're always different with different guys. I think the portal's allowed for guys to be able to make decisions, good and bad. And so if that's the case, and that, it's always helpful when you're communicating, especially locally, to see what makes sense. If a kid's going to leave good or bad, maybe he makes a lot more sense for somebody else, or he fits somebody else. That's just the way it works, man. It's free agency.
Yep.
And I'm thinking the same thing alongside with with Dwayne. I mean, making sure that we can communicate and somehow help each other in this crazy landscape.
Dude, it's a wild thing to think about, but it makes all the sense in the world, and it seems like it'd be beneficial to the kids too, right? Like that. Hey, I have you, Tony Skinn, have all of these relationships all over the country, and why wouldn't you use those to try to benefit someone who's trying to be in the right spot for them?
Yeah, no question. It's the ever-evolving portal, man.
Right.
If you can figure it out to where it's helping your program, but then also helping these kids, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Just making sure at the end of the day, you understand the grass is not always greener on the other side, but if you have a relationship where it makes sense, this is a better fit for you. I tell guys that all the time. You don't have to necessarily come here and play for us or play for me, but there's certain places that if you're going to make a change, make sure it makes sense.
I completely get it, man. I totally understand what it is that you're saying. Coach Tony Skinn, now at his alma mater, George Mason, getting ready to play. Was there one thing that when you showed back up on campus, and maybe you've gotten some opportunities to go back to campus, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but was there one thing that when you showed back up on campus, you were like, I got to go over and do this. I got to go over and see this. It's been too long. Did you have a moment like that when you got back?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I came in for the interview, I think that I had to GPS my way out of campus, man. when I was here, Mason is basically inside what's called a Patriot Circle. It's like a big track, and everything was inside of that circle. Now there's so much stuff outside of the circle. Just getting out of campus, I really GPSed out of campus.
That's so funny.
I'm still learning my way around here, man. This university is ever growing. And it's a unique place, and I'm not saying that because I'm an alum. It's really a place where, I get a chance to kind of see it from a different lens now. As a player was one thing, but now as a coach, it's completely different. And, I'm excited, man. It's truly a dream come true.
All right, and then the other thing we got to ask before we let you go: how do you explain the Kevin Willard coaching tree bearing so much fruit now, man? Like everybody's getting head coaching jobs. My God.
It's crazy, right? I tweeted maybe this is probably prior to when everybody started, I guess, evaluating that and putting it out on social media that his tree's growing. But I tweeted something when I knew Grant was right there and I had just taken his job. But I mean, again, he's that's the type of leader that he's been. I know for me, he gave me a chance, in 2018 to jump on board to be on his staff. And I learned so much because he put me in that position where, I was trying to figure things out that I had never done before as an assistant. And that grew, in 3 years. And when I came back to Maryland, even more, and just understanding, kind of what I knew he needed, and certain things that he knew he wanted, and all those things aligned and put me in a position to be in this situation. And Graham Billmeyer has done that for 10 plus years with him. And so, the coaching tree is definitely ever grown. If you had Tavon Sadler, who we brought on this time last year, man, it's, I give my guys got it. We got to give him his flowers.
It's awesome, man. We are excited about that. Very excited for you, Coach. It's an awesome opportunity for you to be back at your alma mater. I know how fired up everybody down there is. Congratulations. Thanks for everything that you did in a short time at Maryland. It was a really special season for Maryland fans to watch what you guys were able to accomplish in getting that thing turned around. We'll be rooting for you. Best of luck moving forward. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
No, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Coach Tony Skinn, former Maryland assistant, now at his alma mater, George Mason, where, of course, he was part of that legendary Final Four team. Taking some time for us. And, Tavon Sadler, add him to the list, Baltimore native, who was the director of ops at Maryland a season ago and is now the head coach at Nichols, where it was his alma mater. So kind of crazy that 3 people that were part of Kevin Willard's staff a year ago are now all Division I head coaches just a year later. You hope that it's a sign about Kevin Willard and about what people think about Kevin Willard and the people that he surrounds himself with. So pretty cool story. Obviously, down in D.C., it's a very cool story for them that Tony Skinn comes home to take over at George Mason. Hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. It has also been brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Jeremy Conn is going to join us a little bit earlier this week. He'll, in fact, join us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's number 1 pick, Jackson Holliday, and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, Did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything. I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Into hour number 2 of the show, Stan the Fan, Ross Grimsley will be with you tonight. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video tomorrow if you miss it. And I have to be honest, I don't remember who the guest is, or he didn't tell me, and that's the reason why I'm blanking all of a sudden. So I apologize for that wholeheartdly, because I started doing the read and then realized I don't remember who it is. But I'm sure it's going to be great. And you want to watch it at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. All right. We're going to do this a little bit earlier than we normally do because we're moving some things around this hour. Of course, this man, you hear him on the Big Bad Morning Show on 105.7 The Fan. You see some picks every day at PressBoxOnline.com. But now you can also find him at his very own subscription site, where I am pretty pissed off, Jeremy Conn, because I signed up a week ago, and I haven't gotten a single picture of your feet yet. What the hell is going on over there?
Oh, it's not that kind of site. I'm actually taking pictures of my beehole in the mirror. So it's a pic site. See, that's just creepy. But no, this has been something a long time in the making, and I've loved everything I've done with PressBox, and I'll continue writing, and I'll be putting up some plays for PressBox still. But a bulk of my stuff is going to go to concretelocks.com, which I'm pretty happy about it. Some people were pissed off, but that's how it goes. But,
well, I'm pissed off. I'm furious. I hate you. I don't think we're ever going to talk again, frankly.
Well, my site, it costs $4.99, and then there's other packages that we put together. I mean, for you, I get you the big package.
Yeah, you do.
I know you don't like the little packages. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, somebody called me.
You ever watch porn? Do you like the guys with the big wieners or the little wieners? Well, you're not all the way straight. No. Bring it back. Bring it back. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You were plugging your website. I let it go to the Tiger King.
No, somebody started calling me, and my phone went right to my Bluetooth.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that figured out. No, but somebody called me a greedy douchebag, and I'm like, it literally costs 13 cents a day or whatever, 20 cents a day. So you figure it out. But it's been a long time coming, and I'm happy to do it now. So,
for the record, I think you're a greedy douchebag for what it's worth. So
I do too.
Let me get this straight. By the way, I thought I blocked my number so you couldn't see who it was that had sent you that message. Let me get this straight. I'm not going to get any naked pictures from signing up for this website.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, all right. That's the part.
I need that to be a surprise for everyone.
All right,
what is it? I'm assuming it's mostly dudes.
Let me do the actual plug for you. What are people getting when they sign up for Concrete Locks? And that's CONN, like Jeremy Conn, concretelocks.com.
So for $4.99 a month, I do a daily podcast every single day. It's usually anywhere from, 10 to, it could be 30 minutes, although most of them have been around 10 to 15 so far. And then, I talk about picks. I talk about what happened before, the night before, and some of the other games. And then I break down some of the games I like for today. That being said, usually I put out about 10 to 12 plays. My top 2 plays or whatever it may be, depending on the sport, are going to go to clients that are buying packages because I have to hit a certain percentage. The rest of it gets given out to all the rest of, the people that sign up for the $4.99. So you are getting my picks. You're getting picks that I'm going to bet, that I'm going to play. The other ones, because I have to hit a percentage, and it wouldn't be, if I'm charging people money for other picks, it wouldn't be right for me to just give them out to everybody else. So that's where we're at, and moving forward with it. So $4.99 gets you quite a bit.
All right, and then I see that there's other packages where, and again, I'm a man who enjoys other packages.
Well, if you've noticed, my largest package is called the Glenn Clark.
It's so weird how that worked out. I appreciate that. What an honor. I mean, it's a little bit of false advertising, but I still appreciate it nonetheless.
Oh, no, I know 2 Glenn Clarks. The other one's very large.
See, that makes way more sense now. Makes way more sense. So how does this work? If I fork over, if I say, Jeremy Conn, here's $2,500 of my hard-earned money, what am I getting for my $2,500?
I don't know what that pack so my salesman is setting it up. Everybody's getting $200 off the first package. There's some smaller stuff on there. I mean, you can buy it and check it out. But for my plays, if I don't hit 60%, you get the next group for free. So you could end up buying it and then getting it for free. But during baseball season, I'm telling you, I'm going to hit 60% quite a bit.
All right. Very good. And again, you can find all of that right now at Concrete Locks. That's CONNCRETE.
Can't wait till people do sign on and see it's just a strictly feet site.
Right.
That I just send pictures. Yeah. That's all it is. There's no gambling thing.
It's weird. I've actually been selling pictures of your feet for years. That's the funny part about all of this. It's been very, very lucrative for me. So I appreciate the fact that
I think that little piggy should have went to market a long time ago. So.
All right, Jeremy Conn, 105.7 The Fan. All right, I want to get an unbiased. We're going to have Al Bernstein on later in the hour to talk about Tank. Is it as significant as Showtime wants you to believe it was what happened on Saturday night?
Yeah, because Ryan Garcia is a really good fighter. I think Tank's better than him. But as I said, I'm not a Tank guy. I'm not a fan of his. I think he's a great boxer. But just because he's from Baltimore doesn't mean I'm going to root for him. I've said that multiple times. That being said, he's a great fighter, and he hit him with a body shot that just dropped him. And I do think it's a big fight, but this is the first big fight Tank's had, in my opinion, or at least borderline big fight. He fights more on Twitter with good fighters than he does in the ring. So I know that's going to upset a lot of Baltimore people. Like, it's part of the posturing that is the sport now. I get that. But, I just want to – we haven't seen – Errol Spence now, that the fight that's supposed to happen that's coming up, we've been waiting for this fight forever. Now we're finally going to get it. Did we get Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather when De La Hoya was probably out of his prime? Sure. And we got the results we got. But I do think it's a big fight for Tank, and it's a good win.
I guess the question becomes, do you believe that we're going to see Devin Haney, or now does the Mayweather camp say, well, we gave you guys a big fight. We gave you one of the ones that you wanted. Now we need to run off, especially since he's probably going to have to serve some jail time here in the span of the next couple of years. Now we're going to run off a few of those fights just to take some paydays and build up the record, and then maybe we'll think about a real fight again in a couple of years.
They might, but it's so silly. We get caught up in the wins and losses of fighters. I just want to see great fighters fight. I want to see Ed was going over Jake LaMotta when he fought Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, he fought him 6 times, and there were a couple times he would fight him 3 weeks apart. It's the boxing game is totally different now. But I don't know that you need to pick everybody else that's not in the top 3 of the top 10 and fight them and try to build up your resume. Let's see him fight. I was in New Jersey watching an undefeated Jewish fighter that they were trying to push really hard. He was good, not great, and he fought, basically a journeyman Mexican fighter, and the guy beat his ass. The Mexican fighter just beat his ass for 10 rounds. And at the end of the 10 rounds, because he didn't knock him out, you already know who won the fight, the undefeated fighter. So they move it on to him. They give him the win when he had no – I'm not even sure the guy won a round, but they gave him the fight because they wanted to push this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the guys you're talking about in the top there, Haney, Lomachenko, I think all those guys are legit, but I just want to see Tank fight them.
I agree, and I think it's best for this. And I think that was the real thing about Saturday night that was so important, was it was great for boxing, right? It was a really important, hey, this feels legitimate. This isn't just, we're not just going through the motions here. This feels like a real thing, and that got some electricity and that got some excitement, and it wasn't Jake Paul fighting. It was an actual fighter at the top of his game fighting another actual fighter at the top of his game. And I do understand the way the sport works. You can't do that every time out. But if you could just do it, I don't know, once a year at least, boy, it would go a long way for the health of the sport on the whole.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these guys should be fighting at least 2 or 3 times a year. But no, we'll drag it out. We'll make this happen. So
right, exactly.
It's odd, man. And we were talking, basketball, horse racing, and baseball were the 3 biggest sports for a century in the U.S. Yep. I mean, they were up there at the top, and 3 of the oldest sports we have. And when you look at it, horse racing and boxing are believed to be dying. Baseball is going to be fine. And I don't think the other sports are dying, but the heavyweight division in boxing is awful. And they've split up into all these other different weight classes and all these different belts that everyone's a champion now. And it's just watered down because everybody needs to make money. And that's the bottom line, is that it's the almighty dollar that matters more than anything else.
Is it definitive? All that stuff they were doing on Saturday night about the face of boxing, right? Which I get it was promotional appeal for the fight. I understand why they were doing it. But is there any legitimacy at all now of actual boxers, Gervonta Davis now being the biggest, most marketable star in the world at this point?
He's up there. He's definitely up there with some of these other. And the fact that he's brash and he talks trash. I think that feeds into it a little bit. But, you know, it is funny, though. If you ask your average fan, your average sports fan, who are the three best boxers pound for pound right now, I think they'd have a hard time naming three.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of it, I don't even think they would get the top three, specifically the ones that should be mentioned that are great fighters, and even some of the young guys that are on the come now. But it's not like it's just bad. Like when you promote a fight and you get out there and you watch a guy, it's supposed to be a great fight, embarrass another fighter, and that's not what we got Saturday. But this happens from time to time. Then, you know, I think it pushes guys away from paying for it. I almost feel like the UFC has got it right, where they're kind of planning these fights out, making them. But at some point, they're going to get to it, too, where they want to keep these records up, I believe, you know, where they start mixing it up a little bit more.
He is Jeremy Conn, 105.7 The Fan, Big Bad Morning Show. He's with us here on GCR. Jeremy, earlier in the show, I was talking about, you know, how silly it was that a week ago we were all panicked about Orioles pitching. And here we are 1 week later, and they're the mid-'90s Atlanta Braves with Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz. I don't know how to measure the fact that this week they got to face the Tigers and the Nationals and they stink versus the fact they struggled at the beginning of the year. Are you at a place where you are now suddenly comfortable with the Orioles pitching, or are you still like, hey, let's see how it goes over the next 3 days against the Red Sox before we really start to sell ourselves in the last week really meaning anything?
I mean, here's what I'll say. Do I think the Orioles pitching is good enough to get them in the postseason? Sure. I think they could make that run. I think a lot of the other parts are really good to help carry them. But that being said, like, if they get in the postseason with this pitching, do I think they can win? More than likely not. You know, like, stranger things have happened, but at some point you've got to go out and spend on frontline pitchers or grow them within your farm system. I think Grayson's future is bright. I like what I'm seeing from him outside of, you know, he's getting himself into some jams, but he's found ways to get out of it.
Yep.
That being said, I still feel like that there needs to be some improvements in that staff. It'd be nice to have somebody that, you know, look, every time, and I'm not saying you're going to find a DeGrom or a Garrett Cole, but every time those guys take the mound, you expect to win. You don't always win, but you expect to win. And it'd be nice to have one of those guys on this roster because they're not there yet. Like, you know, Grayson's good, but every time he takes the mound, do I expect him to win right now? No.
I think the point is that, like, after the first 2 weeks of the season, what you just said there I think is important, because I think after the first 2 weeks of the season, I was leaning more towards the pitching could genuinely be the undoing of this team to end up falling short, right? Like, when Cole Irvin stunk and Dean Kramer stunk and the bullpen stunk, and I'm like, man, I don't know that I see it. I don't know that I buy that they're going to end up having enough to get through to the end of the year. Now, again, at that point, I had no idea that Yennier Cano was going to prove to be a revelation. And again, get back to me in a month. Who knows what we're going to be talking about at that point. But I do think that just to say there's enough stability there that they've got enough pitching to get to the postseason, I think is a step up from where we thought we might have been after the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and so the other thing is the bullpen has the best strikeout-to-walk ratio of any team in Major League Baseball right now. They're number one at over 20.6%, which is impressive. And, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, hey, the pitching looks good because you faced the Tigers and the Oakland A's and even the White Sox, who were all banged up. And I'm going, okay. And then we talked about it today with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has faced pretty much the same teams that the Orioles have faced, the Tigers, the A's, the Nats. And, you know, they're just above them, and nobody questions them because they have a little bit more of a track record. I just think that we haven't seen the Orioles do it long enough to really believe that this group is good enough to get it done. And again, I don't think they're good enough really to get it done, but the analytics, I feel like management and this front office and how they've used some of the statistics have really benefited them, this team, that like the wall and all the other stuff that's factored in. You're watching guys looking at numbers. I was watching Trey Mancini with the Cubs, and he was going over all their analytical stuff in the dugout. It's a bigger part of the game now.
No question. And to your point, I think, by the way, also, and I'm writing about it today at PressBoxOnline.com, I am really fascinated by the decision that they could end up having to make here in the next 2 weeks about, you know, when Tate and Givens come back, if nobody else gets hurt and if nobody goes on bereavement or whatever. I am fascinated by what it is that they're going to have to do here as they decide who's getting sent down and, you know, measuring Austin and Voth being out of options versus the fact that Cano and Bauman have been nails this season. Mm-hmm. I think it presents like a really unique test for an organization that at this point is supposed to be, you know, prioritizing and all about winning versus roster manipulation in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I start to wonder too. Like, all right, so for me, Vogt is a guy that he has not looked good. He has not looked like he looked last year. And if we look at his career as a whole, I think maybe last year might be a bit of the outlier, more so than the other year. So I could see him getting waived bye-bye if we went the old Joe Angel route. But also, I could see them going with a shorter bench with Adam Frazier's ability to play the outfield.
Well, don't you have to have 13 pitchers now, isn't it? Or you have to have at least 13? Can you do 14 and 12 with pitchers?
I think you can.
Okay.
You can go with a shorter bench, right? You have to have a certain amount of pitchers.
Yeah, but you don't have to have a certain number of position players. You might be right about that.
I don't. I mean, I might be wrong too. So that's because of even some of these new things that have been implemented in baseball.
Right?
Like, I'm still catching up on some of it. Like even with the the pitch clock, watching some of these guys and their ways around it. And they were who was it? Wade Miley is a guy that likes to pitch really fast.
Teams are limited to carrying 13 pitchers.
Okay, so maybe that's what it is then. All right, well, then they'll have to make a tough decision.
And that's what's fascinating to me, right? Like, it really does present. I know it's a small thing, but I wrote this morning about how I appreciated that they didn't try to force Politi onto the roster this year. That, like, yes, you want to use your Rule 5 pick, fine. And if that guy comes in and, like, mows everybody down in spring training and you say, well, maybe we found something here, and you throw him on the roster and it doesn't, you measure it during the season. If he legitimately can get major league hitters out, by all means keep him. If he can't, you got to give him up. They said, look, he stunk in the spring. We can't waste a roster spot on carrying someone who knows. We were talking earlier. Like, once upon a time, they found Nestor Cortez. But they said we can't waste a roster spot on someone that can't help us right now. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bummer that Nestor Cortez proved to be really good and you ended up stinking for a few years and you sure as hell could have used a Nestor Cortez. And it's even worse because he's a Yankee. But at the time, I will always appreciate it. It's when we talk about the Arrieta thing. I get it. It stinks that Jake Arrieta went on to become a superstar with the Chicago Cubs, but we all remember what the feeling was. It was they had no choice at that point. They needed someone on the roster that could help them win at the time, and Jake Arrieta wasn't doing it. I will always appreciate.
He had a 7-run ERA.
Oh, it was an abomination. So I'll always appreciate a team saying we need to do what's best right now. Does it mean I'll crucify them if they send Baumann down or Cano down and keep Voth around? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's the end of the world because they'll probably make another roster move 2 weeks later when somebody gets hurt. But I think it presents them the opportunity to remind the fan base, hey, look, we get it. Right now, we are going to prioritize winning. And whatever that means, we will prioritize it over trying to manipulate the roster to keep around a guy that, frankly, doesn't have that much of an upside.
Yeah. And look, those are all going to be tough decisions. You brought up, like, the way some of these guys are pitching right now. And I hope they make the right one. I hope it's not, hey, we'll see if, like, the Voth thing to me is it's a no-brainer if he's pitching the way he's pitching once those guys are ready to come back, that he's one of those spots. But, they might have to make a tough cut elsewhere. And one of the big problems I have with trades or when you send guys down, like, I'm not worried about what they go and do with another team. It's one thing to say that you traded a guy too soon, but, like, for all the people that were screaming, oh, my God, we gave up Josh Hader, yeah, but you got Andrew Miller back, and you got that run to the postseason. It just didn't work out. I don't have a problem with things like that. But ultimately, I think fans get caught up in it when they bring up guys like even Kevin Gausman to a degree. I don't know if it was the up and down here. They changed some things when he left, going to the National League. He got his confidence back, and now he's a top-tier pitcher, which a lot of us believed he could be here. Jake Arrieta had completely lost it, So they would always say he had the best stuff on the team, and then as soon as he went to Chicago and, they sent him down to Iowa. He's pitching great. They call him up, and he wins the damn Cy Young. Hats off to him.
All right. Now, I need you to step in on this because of all of the bizarre things that got traction that I have tweeted out. I throw so many things out there on Twitter that I think are great and nobody cares about. And then I'll throw out something that's an utter nothing, and all of a sudden it becomes very controversial. I tweeted about the stupid brick last night. All I said was, I've thought about it all day. It's a terrible gift. I know we all want it to be thoughtful, and maybe we'd think it was because we love the warehouse, and maybe we'd think it was, like, as we care, but it's terrible. Intentions were good. And I don't even know that the brick actually made its way back to the team charter. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Miguel Cabrera just left it in the clubhouse. Because it's an effing brick. Now, part of the problem is that our friend Lacey DaCosta jumped in and reminded me that, like, she's got family connections to the warehouse, and so she thought it would be neat. And I was like, I understand that. And again, I think it would be neat. If somebody said, here, I'm going to give you a brick from the B&O warehouse to me, Glenn Clark, it would be very cool. But we all have to be willing to acknowledge it's an awful gift, right? Like, at that point, why are we even giving a gift if that's the gift we're giving?
I thought it was a brick of cocaine. It's not. It's an actual
it's
brick.
An actual brick. It's just
that's got no resale value in the open market then.
Well, I mean, it's cool if you hand it to somebody who's an Orioles fan. Like, if on the way out of the ballpark, you turn around and say, hey, by the way, little Jimmy, this is a brick from the B&O warehouse. Like, a kid wouldn't get that, but maybe an adult would be like, that's kind of neat. Like, I'll keep that at my house. But for Miguel Cabrera? Like, what?
See, but I don't get some of this. Like, the brick thing, it doesn't bother me the way it bothers you.
Oh, no.
It's somewhat of a weird gift.
By the way, I want to be clear. It doesn't bother me. It was a throwaway. Okay. It was an utter throwaway where I kept trying to think of myself, like, I think they meant well by it, but what is this? Like, what in the world?
I get why we did something for David Ortiz with the history with the Red Sox, but I don't understand. Like, Miguel Cabrera is a great player. Show his highlight reel. Show when the Orioles tried to intentionally walk him and they left it hanging a little bit towards the plate. He belted it.
Yep.
So, like, show some of the other highlights of him against the Orioles, or a little tongue-in-cheek, show him getting out all the time and laugh about it. Something. But, like, the broken bat rocking chair that Mariano Rivera got, some of the other, like, those things, I think those are great. But some of the keepsakes, I don't know why you're doing. Are we going to do this for every great player that comes around? And
I kind of like the idea of it. I kind of think it's a neat thing in the moment to show reverence towards. I think Miguel Cabrera is worthy of getting this type of reverence wherever he goes. To your point, I would say if you can't come up with a neat gift, yes, then just don't give the guy a gift. Like, yes, just show that.
Just recognize him and play a video. Like, I think that's all you have to do, really.
I would
somebody special.
Yeah.
If it's a cheater, or let's say at the end of Vlad Guerrero's career and he stays with the Blue Jays and you want to do something for him, and you get him something. I get that. But, like, I don't know, like, how many times we saw Miguel Cabrera in the postseason? I mean, that was cool. I just don't get it.
I have two feelings. The first feeling I have about it is I think Miguel Cabrera is worthy of it, and I also think that, like, you could just make this easy on yourself. Whenever someone comes in, just give them a damn bushel of crabs or a box of crab cakes or something like that, and it's something local and unique, and say, hey, we're going to ship it back to your house, and it can just be evergreen. In fact, whoever your partner's with, whether it's Jimmy's, whoever it is, whoever your partner's with at the stadium, just say, hey, we need you to ship a box of crab cakes to Miguel Cabrera. Done, right? Like, then everybody says, hey, that's a cool gift, right? Like, who doesn't like that gift? It works.
Yeah, exactly.
It does bring me back to, and yes, if you've got something unique, right? Like, if you could have found the ball on that, intentional walk home run or something like that, then yeah, find that ball, and it's kind of cool. The fact that the reports were that David Ortiz was pissed about the phone proves that David Ortiz is a fraud, and all this, like, stuff about him being a good guy. Dude, if you've got any sense of humor at all, you think that's amazing. Like, if you have any...
Great.
By the way, there's a gentleman from the Army that's currently dancing and doing air guitar outside of my window, and it's my favorite thing ever. I want to invite him in to talk to him about it.
Go Navy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. I forgot we hate them because they yelled at me the morning we got drunk. I totally forgot
Boots
about
on the ground.
That being said, I want to know, do you remember the worst gift that you've ever received? Like, do you have, or a story about the worst gift you ever...
Well, the worst gift I've ever received is also the best gift. Do you like that lead in for the story?
All right.
So I just told this story on our show last week when I was talking about my grandmother, and you may actually know this. So at one point when I was in high school, my grandmother and my grandfather came to live with us. Like, falling on hard times. Yeah. They had a house in West Virginia, but they were still staying up here, so they lived with us. And I knew my grandmother didn't have much money, so she would ask me what I wanted for Christmas, and I would just blow her off and say crotchless panties, because she wasn't going to go buy me crotchless panties. So, like, my grandmother was like, Jeremy, stop that. And she's like my second mom. I mean, I love this woman to death. But so then another one, crotchless panties. Will you stop that? Like, she cursed at me and yell at me. So on Christmas Day, as I'm opening up my stocking and I reach my hands all the way down into the bottom of my stocking, I pull out a pair of her old dirty panties that she cut the crotch out of. So I think you understand why it is also the worst gift, but also the best gift, because as gross as it was hilarious.
Okay, first of all, if they weren't hers, then I would think this would be the greatest gift of all time.
No, they were hers.
That part of it makes it so the joke of it can't overcome it. That's so disturbing. Oh, God, I think I've told you this story before. No.
Is it weird that I still have them?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
right. It's like, is it weird that I'm holding them in my hand right now? I should never tell this story out loud. I one time was home from college and I had a young lady over and we just fell asleep. Like she wasn't going to spend the night, but she just did. It happens. But there was a blizzard. And I couldn't. I was staying at home, my parents, and now this young lady is stuck at my house with my parents, and we're not dating. Like we're not. We're just. I mean, like we had known each other for a little while. It's not like it was somebody I just met, but like it was
Instead
somebody.
of the walk of shame, it's like the stay of shame.
Yes,
Is that what that was?
it was totally uncomfortable, and making it more uncomfortable because like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do here? Like, how am I gonna handle this? Like, this is bad, man. Like, it was legit snow, like 8 inches of snow on the ground. I was not going anywhere. I couldn't get this girl out of there. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? Like, this is a nightmare. And I swear to Christ, my mother, who means well, but does not understand the line, walks downstairs and starts knocking on my door and says, Glenn, did you have a visitor last night? So I'm like casually, I'm wandering out there. I'm like, yes, hi, Mom. Yes, my friend Lacey is here, and we'll figure that. She said, don't worry about it. I'll make bread. Like, my mom's trying to be very sweet about this. Like, she's trying to be cool given the circumstances when I'm 18 years old or whatever I was at the time. She's like, I'm going to make breakfast. Don't worry about it. And, we can find her some clothes. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really worried about that part. Like, it's not like she's been here for 5 days. She can wear the clothes she was wearing last night. It's okay. I swear to Christ, my mom walks back downstairs with her own clothes, including underwear.
A pair of underwear? That's great.
Whenever I think about that story, whenever I see or like on social media, this young lady pops up in my life again, I start to feel the creeps all over again. Like,
did Lacey wear them?
No, she chose not to. She chose,
how embarrassing that is.
And we didn't never spent the night again. That's what I would say. There was never. That was the last time that there was any familiarity in that way between.
I remember having a moment where we were going to hoop it up, and all my friends were staying with me.
Okay.
And my mom and I have a very interesting relationship, and she wasn't married at the time.
Given the other things that I know about your family, I don't know that you want to say those words, my friend.
Well, no, I mean, I can literally say it. Like, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I banged your mom last night."
Yeah.
My mom, he didn't know my mom was sitting right there. I was like, "Mom, did you bang this guy?"
It's pretty good.
She's like, "No, honey, I didn't." And then you see the look on his face when he realizes it's actually my mom.
Yeah, right.
And didn't
That's
realize,
pretty good.
So, but my mom had told us one point, it was very adult. She said, "Hey, I haven't had a date in a while, since getting divorced. So I got a friend coming over. I'd like you guys to leave because we'd like some alone time."
Pretty great.
Which is really, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, that's a tough pill to swallow with your buddies there. And they never let me hear the end of it.
Yeah,
so.
no, of course. Like, dude, your mom's getting railed out right now. Like, how you feeling about it?
I didn't want to tell you guys I got to leave because I'm the guy spending time with Jeremy's mom. So
that's not
stuff
bad.
like that.
I had there was an incident where my buddy knew that I had had relations with his sister, and was trying to figure out a way to tell me that he knew without, like, because you know how dudes are, like. I don't know. He just didn't want to he didn't want to make it seem like he was trying to be possessive or something like that. He was just trying to passively, aggressively let me know. And so we're at a party one time and somebody asked how we knew each other. And they were like, well, we've been friends since we were 6. And he looked at me. He's like, yeah, man, we have been. I would say we're almost like family. Like, I don't think I'd be able to sleep with your sister. And so I turned around. I'm like, well, that's weird because I've been sleeping with your mom for 15 years.
Oh, my God.
And he just, all he could do is tip his cap right back. Like, touche,
Can I call you brother?
Yeah, right. You got me on this one. You got.
Well, I don't know if I ever told
this
you this.
one.
Have you ever dated a twin?
I've dated 2 twins. In fact, I didn't date her, but that girl from the story was a twin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In fact, we can narrow down Lexi and find her.
Yeah. You want to go a step beyond that? Myself and a friend of mine both dated the opposite sides of both sets of those twins.
That is really interesting.
Right? Yeah.
I dated did anybody ever ask you how you tell them apart? Because it was funny for me because the twin that I dated, and I said, well, it's easy to tell them apart. And I don't know why people have such a problem with it. Jill was the girl that I was sleeping with. Her brother John has a penis. That's how I tell them apart.
It did make it easier.
That's how I know who I'm sleeping with.
Right. It wasn't like you were going to kick him out, but like you knew. Yeah, it was always, I will legitimately say that they would be like, how do you tell them apart? And I'd be like, I do. Like, they don't look exactly the same. Like, it's fine. Yeah. They're different people. I know which one is the girl that I'm dating. Like, I can figure that out. It's not that hard. I got so my story was when I was like 16, we were at my friend's, like we had a group of friends and their parents always hosted us. Like we always spent the night at their house. That's where all the parties were. And their parents were wonderful. I still know them to this day. And I did like a stand-up routine. We were doing Christmas gift exchanges. And I swear to God, like a 5-minute stand-up routine about how thoughtless of a gift a multi-tool was. I was like, I could almost remember the routine. Like, you want to know how to say I know nothing about you? Get him a multi-tool. Here, you'll need this for something. And I swear to Christ, her dad had gotten all of us in the group multi-tools. And then I had to go, because we really liked him. Like, Papa Joe is our guy. And so we had to go immediately from the span of me doing 5 minutes about how thoughtless a multi-tool was to like, yeah, but when you got it for me, it was I really appreciate it.
Nothing worse than eating crap after you've said something stupid.
God, man. All right, what's coming up on the show this week?
So obviously I think all of us are going to the game on Wednesday. Should be fun.
Do you guys hold hands when you go to the game, or how does that work? Like, do you?
I think so. I think Rob will be sitting in a different section, but Ed and I will be holding hands.
Do you bring a blanket in case it gets cold? Like, do you?
No, because I'll always keep them warm. I'm very warm.
So
like in normal, so like on an everyday basis, I'm very warm.
Yeah.
So, but it is a nice little like kind of camaraderie thing to get out there with the guys. And you're not going to not hold hands with a guy that was on the wire if you have an
exactly
opportunity, right.
By the way, Griffin and I do a lot of the same camaraderie events. What we do, it's called I go in and I throw salami at him. I spread mayonnaise on his buttocks and I throw salami at him. That's how we bond.
Are these metaphors?
No, it's exactly what we do. It's a reference to I swear to God, it's such a unique reference. There was when Scott Stapp was trying to be a religious man, like was trying to be like a gospel preacher. People remembered that, like, on a Girls Gone Wild video, he had this is a straight shoot. They had slathered girls' butts in mayonnaise and thrown lunch meat at them. And then Scott Stapp was trying to, like, convince you to go follow the Lord or something like that. So that was a heck of a pull. That was one that I pulled from the way back machine. How does the conversation
start? Does he go, what if?
I threw some salami at you. Yeah, it's exactly how it goes. With butt cheeks spread wide open. We do a show here. We do a show. Jeremy Conn 1057 on Twitter. Picks at Pressbox
is butt cheeks one word, or do you spread them apart?
God.
Oh, sorry.
PressboxOnline.com and now ConcreteLocks.com with 2 N's. Love you, buddy. We'll talk again next Monday.
I'll see you guys.
What did we just do? What just happened there? How do I come back from that?
I don't know.
I really kind of had hoped he would just leave it alone. Like, I didn't expect him to get the reference because it is a very obscure reference. It is an extraordinary obscure reference. I was just trying to come up with something. This is the problem with doing improv, is you got to come up with something very quickly on your feet. When they're talking about camaraderie, what do we do? What story can I share that I would get a little humor out of? And immediately what I fell back to was Scott Stapp throwing lunch meat at strippers' butts.
As most people do.
A lot of people have that one filed away. A lot of people have that one in the back of their minds. I don't know how we come back from that. We'll talk to Al Bernstein. That's how we're going to come back from it. We will get back to some legitimate conversation at that. That's why we normally do Jeremy at the end of the show, because we acknowledge that it might go off the rails. We were doing some legitimate sports conversation there. Sure. But then it might go off the rails, and then we might not be able to come back from it. And, those things happen. Today's show is also brought to you by A.J. Michaels, expert and award-winning. A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. We'll come back in. We'll talk more with Al Bernstein about Tank Davis and a huge win on Saturday night. That's next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports? As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the bat-around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab-eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab-eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Sorry, we're having John Colson and I are having a chat. It has nothing to do with local sports. It's kind of crazy news in the media world this morning that Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News, which is, again, whatever your opinions are of Tucker Carlson or Fox News, that's earth-shattering within the world of media. And the fact that you would imagine it's probably related to the fact that they just lost an $800 million settlement on a lawsuit and might be losing a lot more. And that dude was pretty much in the center of it. So just kind of a crazy, I saw that pop up. I'm like, whoa. And again, I'm not trying to editorialize about Tucker Carlson or any of those things. It was just very shocking when I saw that pop up right now. Like, wow, that is pretty massive. So Colson and I were caught up in that conversation here for a minute. And it's a very different conversation than salami and mayonnaise. Very, very different.
We're asking where we go from here.
Right, where do we go from here? Exactly right. Oh, for the record, I wanted to be said, I'm also agreeing to part ways with Fox News, for the record. I just want that to be noted. We parting amicably. We're all good. I'm going to take a job over at ATN instead. That's going to be where my future is going to bring me. I think it's a weird episode last night. Like, I think after the last 2 weeks of Succession, they had set the bar so effing high. Like, the last 2 weeks were so insane that it's almost tough to just have functional episodes now, right? Like, that episode last night, before 2 weeks ago, would have been, just another really good Succession episode. But the last 2 weeks were so absolutely bonkers that it almost kind of felt like last night was anticlimactic. You know what I mean? Like, it almost sort of felt like it was missing something. Good, but I also when I say it was missing something, I think we all know what that something is that it was missing, where even the episode the week before, technically the presence was still felt. It's so very weird to speak in code. I don't know how long we got to go before we can just openly talk about these topics. Weird episode. Like it was good. It was just it did not feel the same as the electricity of the previous 2 weeks. So there's our breakdown of Succession, if that's what you had tuned in for this morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Today's show also brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Right now, get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet from DraftKings. What you got to do is go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Click on the DraftKings link. That's the only way for you to take advantage of this offer. That's it. Only way. $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet from DraftKings. Again, go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers in order to get signed up. I made a little money betting this weekend because I bet a few dollars on Tank Davis to win via knockout. Felt pretty good about that.
You got him by 7th round, exactly?
No, I did not. I did not listen to his prediction and go to the 7th round. I should have, obviously, but I did get Tank Davis by knockout. Let's talk a little bit more about that and what's next now moving forward for Baltimore's own Gervonta Davis. Joining us is a man who've always appreciated our conversations over the years. He is an absolute legend in the business from Showtime. He's Al Bernstein, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Al, it's Glenn in Baltimore. I know it's early out west. Thanks so much for getting up early with us and talking some Gervonta Tank Davis.
Yeah, no problem. Good to be with you guys.
Obviously, this was electric. This was everything that the sport could ask for over the weekend. How important on the whole was this fight, between two actual fighters and not goofs that try to pretend that they're fighters because they have YouTube followers? How important was this event for the sport as a whole?
Well, listen, boxing's had a very good year. This has been an excellent year for the sport. There have been probably more good fights this year, not fights necessarily on this level, though there are a number of them, a lot of big fights planned still for the rest of the year. But this one was obviously a very high-profile match, and toward that end, having two fighters, as you point out, who were, both were undefeated and, presumably, although it turned out to be a, pretty dominant performance by Gervonta Davis, it was anticipated, certainly, because they were both undefeated. So it was important. I mean, I think it was a good, kind of an addition to what has been a really, really good year for boxing.
I know that part of it is you guys have the obligation to sell the fight, to sell the event, sell the moment, but there was a lot of talk during your guys' broadcast about this concept of being the face of boxing, right?
Well, to be perfectly candid, that never came out of my mouth.
I'm going to
be real. I'm going to be real candid.
Right.
I'm going to be real candid.
And I appreciate that because I thought. Yeah, I thought I could ask that question to you. I thought that we could have a fair conversation about it.
Well, to be honest, I'm going to be brutally frank. I think that, let's take Gervonta because he had a fantastic performance and he was great and he is certainly a star. I just don't go for faces of boxing and whatever. There's a lot of great fighters. People. He is what Gervonta has done is remarkable. He is, he has he has filled up arenas in cities across the United States. That's pretty extraordinary. That's not to be sneezed at. And I mentioned it in the open. And I think it is amazing. And I think he is a star. I've never been one to pin boxing on one individual. I just don't do that. I've been at it for 42 years, and I to be perfectly honest, it's a good slogan,
yep.
But I just don't go for that.
I understand that, and I really did believe that I could ask you.
That is in no way
that is in no way a slight to what he did or a slight to his star power, which I think is extraordinary.
Let me separate those two things. Legitimately, taking away the star power aspect of it, where do you believe Gervonta is now amongst the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world? Is he a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter in the world?
Yeah, unquestionably. Look, I think he has suffered from the fact that he has not, for a variety of reasons, he hasn't been able to be in there with what people perceive as an opponent that was considered super upper echelon. He's fought very good fighters. He's fought a number of champions, some coming up in weight. And in this instance, he fought somebody who, while he wasn't a champion, was undefeated and had clearly people thought of him as a dynamic young fighter in the sport. And what he needed was not only a good fighter, but a popular fighter. And that's exactly what he got. He got a good fighter, a really good fighter who was very popular. And that helped, expand his resume. I think it is anybody that doesn't consider Gervonta Davis to be one of the best fighters in the sport is not looking at it realistically, because he's powerful, he's cagey, he is very skilled. I mean, and we saw evidence of that in this fight for sure, and we've seen it in other fights as well. So yes, no question, he's one of the best fighters in the sport.
And then adding in the star power factor, adding in the fact that he just headlined a Vegas pay-per-view with an $84.99 price tag, right? Adding in those things, is there, if we say he's not the face of boxing, if we think that might be a bit over the top, and again, I'm not knocking your colleagues, because I understand. Like you guys have a job to do in putting a broadcast. Yep. But if we factor those things in, is he a top 3, a top 5 star in the sport at this point?
Yes, he's absolutely. He's one of the stars of the sport, because you when you can fill up arenas across the United States and be a pay-per-view attraction, and I think this fight, the general perception among everyone connected with Showtime is that this fight is going to do extremely well as a pay-per-view attraction. I think this will certainly be much higher than anything he's done before, and some of that, of course, is you do need a popular dance partner to do that, right? Yep. That helps. Every great champion in the past has needed that. Every great fighter. But nonetheless, you have to give Gervonta Davis a lot of credit for being a big part of that, because, as we said, he has sold out arenas everywhere. He's done something also that's really intriguing. He's found a demographic for the sport, I think, that is special. Number one, he's kind of a folk hero in the hip hop community.
Yep.
Truly he is, and takes in a large swath of people in the United States,
and with
much
other
bigger swath of
pro athletes too, Al. Like it's kind of crazy to me. Like
that's right.
This is a straight shoot.
Agree.
I had superstar pro athletes reach out to me last week and ask if I could help get them into the fight on Saturday night.
Right. That's another element of it. That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah. And so that's number one. Then there's number two. There's number two, that at every Gervonta Davis fight, when I look into the crowd, I see many more African American faces than I normally see at boxing matches. And it's a kind of a fascinating, upwardly mobile crowd that has just, taken to him. And that's why he's filling up arenas in places like Atlanta and, certainly, and Baltimore and everywhere. You know, I mean, he has created several several audiences for himself that are very loyal to him and enjoy him, and not only the pro athletes she was talking about, the entertainers in general, the stars of of the entertainment world, and it's an interesting phenomena, and when we look back on boxing stars in the past, superstars, usually that's part of it, isn't it? You can go all the way back to Sugar Ray Robinson, and I know that's way long ago, right? Even before, and I wasn't even around during his heyday. When I was 9 years old, I saw him fight toward the end of his career. But even then, Bob Dunphy, our director, and who was the son of Don Dunphy, the great boxing announcer, who was a mentor to me in his later years, would talk about Ray Robinson, walking in to an arena and, all the stars of the day, all the big stars would come up to him, right, at the fight, and they would, want to be around him. And so there's no difference between that and what's happening today, what you're describing. So it's an interesting phenomenon.
There's no question. He is the great Al Bernstein. He's with us here on GCR after he, of course, was on the call on Saturday night for Baltimore's own Tank Davis' win over Ryan Garcia. Obviously, the other side of the equation now, there's, I'm sure for a number of people, there's still an uncomfortability, even here in Baltimore, about Gervonta's track record, his legal issues. We know it's going to cloud. I'm going to ask you about his future in a second. It's going to cloud that topic. Mm-hmm. I have said a couple of times, knowing, what I know and knowing his camp a little bit, and I certainly don't talk to Gervonta nearly as much as once upon a time I was able to. But I worry that he's someone that just, like, the chaos is his normal. And I worry about that with him. But, Leonard Ellerby was trying to sell me on the idea that he is more focused. Of course, we're talking about the latest issue only being, 4 months ago. Is Gervonta capable of staying out of his own way now as a bona fide superstar?
That's one of the big questions. Before this fight, when we had the fighter meeting, I did ask him. I said, how were you able to compartmentalize the issue that he's going to be sentenced in shortly for the hit and run incident? And now I know there's some expectations that that's not going to be super dramatic. That there's even the possibility it will be minimal to no actual jail time. I don't know if that's true or not, but clearly that's something that could easily be hanging over your head. And his answer was simple, and I give him, he's an interesting guy, and from interviewing him, he just, when you ask him a question, he gives you an answer. He doesn't spin anything. He just tells you. He thinks about it, and then he just tells you what he thinks. And he said, I said, how did you compartmentalize? He said, I just didn't think about it. He said, I knew I had a task at hand, and I was able to do it. Now, of course, we're now done with the fight, and now he does have to think about it. And you raise what is maybe the most salient issue about Gervonta Davis. Can he avoid, stepping on his own feet? Can he avoid shooting himself in the foot? And that's going to be a big issue for him. And if he can do that, of course, then his future in the sport of boxing is bright. And the other thing is, of course, big matches are hard to make in boxing, but there are big matches out there for you.
Right.
There are matches that are bigger than Ryan Garcia. There's Shakur Stevenson. There's Haney. There's fights that really, when you get down to it, could be promoted into, super mega fights that even make this fight look less.
That was where I wanted to go next, Al, which is I'm interested in what the path is. You mentioned like Haney Loma is coming up. Is it now that this is there needs to be more of these? There need to be more, or is it smarter for his camp to say, let's take another money fight or two, and then maybe next year we consider another type of how do you handle this moving forward? We remember what Floyd's story was, and we know that there are so many parallels here. It feels like it would be incredible for it to be Stevenson and for it to be, the Haney Loma winner. Like, how do you handle this now moving forward to both protect his stardom and monopolize his stardom?
Yeah, I would be surprised if that was the very next thing that happens. It just would, based on the landscape and the fact that there are different promoters, different platforms involved. But I do believe there is no question it is feasible for that fight to happen. It's feasible because it's going to be a pay-per-view. So networks have gotten together before, as they did on this one, as we did with Pacquiao Mayweather, as we did with Joshua and one of his fights. So I believe that it can happen. And I think boxing has kind of started to head in that direction. More big fights are being made, more fights in which there's cooperation amongst the different entities. They are being made. And I think that him being in a fight against one of those two fighters would be a monstrous fight. I just think it would be something that would really, much like this one did, and even more, I think would have a life of its own and be quite a major event. And I'm still very hopeful, for instance, that the Spence Crawford fight is going to happen in the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. In fact, I have to be honest, I'm at least 80 to 90% confident it's going to happen. So that further sets the tone, for what's been going on in the sport, and I think we're going to see more of it.
All right, before I let you go, Alan, I really appreciate the time. You're always so good with us. A few people, and I'll say Baltimore's own Asim Rahman Jr. was one of them, used the word quit in describing Ryan Garcia. I am not going to pretend to be an expert about getting hit in the liver, right? Like I have not been there. But is there any part of you that is comfortable with the word quit when it comes to what happened in the 7th round?
No, I look at it this way. Here's the way I look at it. In round 2, Ryan Garcia was hit with almost a perfect left hand by a fantastic puncher, right? Ryan. I mean, Gervonta Davis has a lot of power.
Artist, yes.
He got up, continued on, won the 6th round probably, right? And even, he lost those rounds probably previous to it, but even was able to win one of the rounds in which he was participating in, and got caught with a really good body shot and went down and couldn't quite get up. Did people say that, my broadcast partner, Lamar-O-Meter, made the perfect historical reference when he compared it to Oscar De La Hoya being knocked out by Bernard Hopkins to the body.
Yep.
I don't remember people saying that Oscar De La Hoya quit. And so I don't know that I would put that term. Again, that's another term I very seldom use. And I will tell you that way back in the Stone Age, when I was an amateur boxer, I was hit in the liver, and it does hurt.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine. Like I don't even want to think about what that feeling might be.
So, it's just hard to, you can't. And you know what? Listen, I've been announcing for 42 years. Different fighters have different levels of punch resistance, different levels of ferocity in fighting the the things they have to deal with in the ring. And some are, we see some fighters and we are astonished at what they can go through. It doesn't mean that the ones that can't go through that much are quitters. It just means that they couldn't deal with that adversity.
Yeah, I get it. I completely get it. Al Bernstein.
I mean, that's my view. Now, somebody else, I know the social media has been ablaze with that, and some people are, are disappointed in his, his inability to get past it. But, and even, when it happened live, I mean, honestly speaking, and I think you'd probably agree, it was hard to even see that body punch.
Exactly.
It was so quick.
Yep.
But when we showed the replays, it was a terrific punch.
Yep, no question. Oh, it was quite clean, and I get it.
Yeah,
I can...
really, really, really good body punch. So,
Al Bernstein, is there anything I can plug for you, my friends?
That's so sweet of you. I appreciate that. Not right at the moment, although I will say, and I almost did it this time, that the next major fight out here, I'm going to get back. As you know, I do a lot of music shows here in Las Vegas, and next time out of the box for Spence Crawford, I think I will do what I was going to do for this fight. I'll do some music beforehand. So
Excellent.
I'll let you know in advance of that, and we can plug that.
We will be in touch. My guy Steve Pratt will always remind me it's time to have Al on again, and I'll say, you damn right, it's time to have Al
we
again.
do have our next Showtime. Our next Showtime match is May 13th, and so if the fans want to tune back into our Showtime boxing, which, by the way, and here I am going to sound like a plugger, but it's just a fact. We've had an astonishing year of boxing on Showtime. It's really been one of the best years I've had in forever announcing fights. So they can come back on May 13th and sample a little bit more of that.
We look forward to it already. Al Bernstein, thank you. You're so good to us. Thank you for taking the time. We will look forward to the next time. Thank you again.
Nice to talk to you. Take care.
Al Bernstein, the legend and boxing broadcasting, and appreciate him hopping on with us this morning. Yeah, I don't know about that quit concept. Like, dude, you go ahead, take that shot to the liver and tell me. I don't know. And like people talk, it's hilarious how many people are also on the other side experts about it. Like, oh, dude, your body's shutting down on him. Like, I guess I don't know that I've ever been hit directly in the liver to understand that, right? Like, but enough people were talking about it that I'm willing to accept it as fact.
We can test it out. It can be our next punishment for whatever
take a clean shot to the liver.
From Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been hit by John Jones a few times, and I know how unpleasant those were. They were really, really unpleasant, and I know he didn't even put the full effort into those. So, I am willing to absolutely accept that that's what occurred on Saturday night, was shot to the liver. For a second, he's like, okay, I'm going to try. And then all of a sudden, dude, nope. Body is just shutting down on him. And, for the most part, it was a pretty good fight. What I said, my only analysis of the fight was I thought Gervonta was very smart in that when he was threatened by Garcia a little bit early on, he went to the hugs, and Garcia, and he referenced, like, maybe I showed him too much respect. I think maybe specifically, like, you saw sometimes when he went to the hug, he would be like, okay, can I keep hitting him? Mm-hmm. Like, am I supposed to? There's
like,
no.
Yeah, do I just stop? And
what's the understanding in that moment? Because in the moment, the argument would be, yeah, keep punishing him, dude. Like, keep getting blows in, because he's just trying to slow you down. Like, that's what he's purposely trying to do, is slow your momentum. That's the idea of the hug. And I thought there were moments there where Garcia could have delivered a little bit more punishment when he had some action going for him early on in the fight. I don't know that it was going to matter. I think that Gervonta was always going to win the fight. It was interesting. Did I read that one of the judges, had the knockdown round as 10-10 on the scorecard? That's insane. Like, if you want to make the argument that it was if somebody had said 10-9 instead of 10-8, I probably would have been willing to hear them out.
Yeah. And
like
almost more likely. Like
I don't know that I would have. I do still think you get knocked down like
you
that.
knock down.
It's 10-8 round.
It's a win.
Oh no, it's a clean
well,
10-8
10-8,
round.
But since
10-8.
Garcia was doing well in that
If
round,
you can at least make the argument for 10-9. You can at least make the argument of, look, clearly that knockdown, you win the round. That's the way it goes. But it was a competitive round. We're not going to go a full 10-8 on a competitive round. Okay, I'll listen. 10-10.
there was no loser to the round when someone hit the canvas.
Stop that. Stop that, man. No way. That was nuts. And yes, obviously, what's clouding, like after something like this, you'd really love to have an immediate direction to try to build off of the momentum of the entire country talking about the fight. You'd like to have, even if you can't announce it, an obvious next path. And you'd like for it to be, like the obvious next path to be the Lomachenko-Haney winner. Given Gervonta's situation legally, but also given that we just don't know if they're going to continue to try to make the biggest fights or go back to stockpiling some paychecks. Like, and I mean this with, sadly, if there is a Haney-Davis fight, it's not going to happen in Baltimore. But if with the new building, Gervonta's camp said, well, we want to go back there because now the building's worthwhile to be in, and we want to have, in the new version of the building, we want to have a big, like the first big sporting event to be Gervonta Davis, you could fight some slappy there in...
Would you let him fight you?
Probably not me. I'm probably going to pass on that. I'll help with the promotion. Again, the liver, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm going to take the liver shot. I think I'm going to pass on all of that. God, this is a very, I was thinking about something else. Like what do you do in broadcast? Like in old school radio, when radio mattered, we would have somebody on the staff that would have to take a liver shot.
Oh my gosh.
Like that's the way it was that's just the way that it went. Like you had to do these types of stunts all the time. And I like doing stunts and I want to do stunts, but I don't know. I don't know about that. Like, we could call, I'm thinking about who we could call. We're going to call Jimmy Lang, ask him to come up here and be the one to deliver the limit.
Somebody from Charles's gym.
Yeah, somebody like that. Jesus Christ. Oh, just wretched. We'll talk more about it during Fighting Words on Thursday. But, I would say on the whole, the fight delivered. It was good enough. Even if it wasn't a classic. I don't even think that it was a classic performance by Tank. Like, I think it was a good enough fight with the stakes being what they were, that no one came away furious. You want to say you were disappointed because you wanted Garcia to get back up, fine. But once you saw the punch, it was a viable punch to end a fight. It was not, there's no way you can't claim that it was fraudulent. You can't, I know everybody does. Like, I understand that. It's just the way that works. But separating the mouth breathers, separating the insane people, the tinfoil hat people, no legitimate person could think there's any ounce of, you didn't have a scorecard controversy, thank God, because imagine, like, if that 10-10 thing had come into play at the end of the fight. Instead, you just had a definitive winner, a good fight. Ryan Garcia handled himself well afterwards and can protect his star power because he's still extraordinarily handsome. Like, that will still exist tomorrow. More casual people know who he is today than they did going into the weekend. It was good for everybody. It was good for all parties involved. It was a good night for boxing on Saturday night. I wish there was another. Again, I only watched the two fights. I only watched the last two fights on the card, and the other one was dreadful. Yeah. I know Truck Simpson won his fight, but that wasn't on the main card. But he won his fight on the card.
On the zone.
Yeah, so there's that. All right, we are winding down for a Monday edition of the program. A reminder that the print issue of Press Box is available now at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. That's Jackson Holliday. He's on the cover. Well, he's an illustration of Jackson Holliday is on the cover as we celebrate what's still to come. And that's, I think, the significant part of this. There's a very special section inside this print issue of Press Box really diving into the fact that despite Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and Grayson Rodriguez already being here, there's still a lot to come. There is still a pipeline of significant talent. Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, Jackson Holliday. There is still a lot on the way in the coming years for the Baltimore Orioles. So go pick up that issue of Press Box right now. Check it all out. And while I have your attention, a reminder that in concert with this new print issue of Press Box, you can go to PressBoxOnline.com/contests and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, plus an Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25 and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms in order to help you get around. You got to be 18 or older in order to enter, and the sweepstakes will run through June 14th. So if you forget today, you'll still hear me talk about it tomorrow. But go get signed up now. Sign your wife up. Sign your girlfriend up. Sign both of them up if that's the case. If you think that either one of them would go with you should they win. Get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests right now in order to sign up.
Speaking of Jackson Holliday, he is on the move. He is going up to Aberdeen. Just got promoted.
Well, that might be a bummer because was that maybe something that we were going to do this week?
Yeah, it was definitely
that's
something I was thinking about.
That's good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him. And I know he was off to a great start. Also, didn't Colton Cowser have like a crazy game this weekend? Didn't he have like
probably.
a 2 home run and ridiculous diving catch type of game over the weekend? I'm pretty sure. On Saturday night, in fact, I believe Colton Cowser had kind of a bonkers game down in Norfolk. So
yes, yeah.
That is the fascinating part. Like, we're not as obsessed as we were with Adley and Gunnar, but there will be a question at some point, no matter how someone is performing at the major league level, there's going to be a question about when these guys might just be ready. And then it gets into those awkward conversations. Like, it was easy when it was Pedro Severino. Like, that's a sacrifice we're willing to make. Now the question becomes, is there a point at some point this year where Colton Cowser is demanding his way onto the major league roster, and then what do you do about Cedric Mullins? And you don't want to have that conversation because we like Cedric Mullins. He's a good dude. He's a nice baseball player. Like, there's a lot there. But if Cedric Mullins is struggling a little bit, what do you do? Or are they having trade conversations because they think Colton Cowser is demanding his way there? Mullins this season is not hitting particularly well, but he's still getting on base at a 370 clip. Like, that's definitely palatable, right? Like, the pop is not there that it was, but a 371 on base percentage with his speed is
very valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not in a rush to move on from it. But is there a point at which Cowser is just so demanding a spot? Hayes has obviously gotten off to another great start. So, like, there's a lot of complicated parts of it. We didn't have to think about this with the last few guys. There weren't guys ahead of them that we cared about. Now we're getting to a point in this process where the guys ahead of them, we care about them. And it's getting uncomfortable and awkward. But legitimate conversations have to be had. Not yet. I'm not saying today, but let me pull up what Colton Cowser. I do know it was two home runs
and a catch.
And a ridiculous diving catch on Saturday night. Just absolutely bonkers diving catch on Saturday night. So now for the season, Colton Cowser is hitting 290, 407 on base, 880 OPS. He only has.
It was Star Wars night.
So he hit 2 of his 3 home runs in the same game. So it's not like Colton Cowser's,
hitting 500 and
yeah, well, okay, that's extraordinary. But it's not like Colton Cowser's saying, dude, another day here is a waste. There's still room there to say, okay, you got more to work on, but it's hard to fathom him being there, I don't know,
through July
into the summer or I guess past the All-Star break. Like, if this is how he's performing, what's the point? What are we doing here? So just awkward conversations that we got to be aware of. We got to be thinking about and sort of filing away that at some point you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And it might be that you're trading away Cedric Mullins for what seems to be not to help the major league team. I still think that could end up being in play. But conversation for another day, not today. Today, we need to get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today. Was there anything we didn't cover this morning, by the way? We didn't really talk about the playoffs. I said yesterday on 105.7, dude, as a Suns fan, this is the least comfortable I've ever felt about a team that's up 3-1. I think they're going to win the series because I always thought they were going to win the series, but there is nothing about the way they've played that said to me, this is a legitimate title contender. They look uncomfortable. They look like they have no idea who's supposed to be doing what in certain circumstances. That's all very tedious. And it's been brought up a few times on the broadcasts. Like, Kevin Durant is still trying to figure out what his role is. Like, am I supposed to be Kevin Durant or am I supposed to be... And then it's on top of the fact that it's supposed to be Devin Booker's team, but it's always been Chris Paul in the final moments of games. But when you have Kevin Durant on your roster, do you really want it to be Chris Paul that's the guy in the fourth quarter? And he was great in Game 4, but it's really uncomfortable to watch. Like, it just looks like guys that have no idea. I pray that they work through those things during the course of this series, and by the time they would face Denver, they'd be sharp. But right now, I do not feel good at all. The best argument you can make is, who do you feel good about in the West at the moment? Like, who is the team that you say, right now in the East, Philly looks completely legit. Boston is looking very solid. But in the West, who are you comfortable with? The closest answer would probably be in the postseason would be Denver, right? Although they lost last night. But it's Denver. Like, all they ever do is disappoint in the postseason. So,
good news for the Suns is, I guess, Kawhi's going to have to play. He's clearly not 100%, and he's going to have to play 3 straight games now, which I guess he just never does.
I'm not worried about this series. This series does not concern me. No, not this series. I said I'm not worried. I'm uncomfortable with the idea of them being a title contender. They're going to win the series. Like, they're going to. I get it. Kawhi's Kawhi, and he can do magical things, and they won the game when Kawhi played. Like, I understand the point. But they're not going to lose 3 straight games, particularly with Kawhi not being 100%. That's not going to happen. I'm worried about Denver in the next series and just the team that does not look like they know. Now, the one, again, nobody cares. I'm doing a Suns show, and I'm the only person that cares in this market. 2 things. One, they do defend. Like, that does matter. All of them defend. It's rare to have 4 legitimate stars on a floor and all of them defend.
I'm ready for next round when you come in wearing your Torrey Craig jersey.
Dude, Torrey Craig has been a monster. Has just been so important to this team in this series. It's crazy how important he's been. But then there's no bench. Like, there's just no bench. I had somebody reach out to me yesterday, like, you're worried too much about that. The Clippers have a weird bench. Like, they just have a weird group of players. Like, they can go from Marcus Morris not playing at all to suddenly him starting. Like, they're just weirdly deep, where, like, they have viable NBA players they're bringing off their bench, despite the fact they don't actually trust them. So you're measuring against that. I'm like, I don't know, dude. The Suns have no bench. Like, there's nothing there. They have traded away everything in order to have Kevin Durant, and I get it. But as someone who cares, it's been uncomfortable to watch. It's been really uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the Warriors-Kings series, oh, my God.
It's a good one.
I saw somebody tweet out yesterday, I petitioned to have that change to a best of 687 series. I'm like, yep, on board, dude. Like, that is must-watch TV, man. That is awesome basketball. And the Warriors got fortunate because Harrison Barnes probably should have left them down 3-1, but didn't, and that's a dangerous thing to do against a Warriors team.
Well, and Steph calling the timeout, like...
Hey, bro.
Wouldn't
I don't know. They survived.
They did.
They survived.
They did survive.
2-2 is they got to go back. They do have to win a game in Sacramento, though. They got to prove that, and that's been a crazy atmosphere, obviously, to start the playoffs. All right, is there anything else? Did we cover everything?
I think that's
now?
everything. Yeah.
All right. Good tidbit.
Okay. All right.
Tidbit. Do I need to have it sponsored? Did I do that?
I mean...
Tidbit is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Good news for the 1988 Orioles. This athletic team is probably worse. So since 1901, the Athletics' minus 100 run differential is the worst by any team in their first 21 games of a season. Which the previous worst through 21 games was the minus 85 run differential by the 88 Orioles. So the Orioles no longer, hold that record for worst team through 21 games. Well, I mean, I guess run differential wise,
okay.
And funny.
I don't really know what to say about that. That's the problem.
And funny because the person that was tweeting this out, it was from CJ Hangin on ESPN, an ESPN researcher, but Buster Olney tweeted it out. So Buster Olney has picked a new team to bully since the Orioles look like they're finally competitive.
You guys get so worked up about these things. It's like these people that are worked up about me saying that the brick was the terrible gift. Who cares? Like if you just want to say first of all, you're wrong. It's a terrible gift. Like there's no justifying it. There's no because I care about the warehouse, that means it's a good gift to give someone. That's not a thing. I love you. It's not a thing. Also, you can't possibly think that I actually care. You can't possibly believe that it's something that I have just been losing sleep over, the Orioles giving a brick. It was a throwaway tweet. That's 100% accurate. It's a terrible gift. But
let's start going through all the legends in the game right now and figure out what would you give them?
I just said I would give everybody the exact same thing. Here's a box of crab cakes.
Lame.
No, it's not lame. It's the best thing we can offer because you know what you can't get in Detroit? Crab cakes. Like it's so easy. It's the easiest possible thing to do in the world. Here, we're going to ship to your house as a thank you for what you've done for the game of baseball. We're going to ship you. There doesn't have to be any thought involved in it. Just somebody walks in and says, hey, this is Cabrera's last time here. Great. Give him a gift bag. Easiest thing to do. And you know what? Thank you is the answer. This, with all due respect, will at best end up going to a secretary somewhere. At best, like the best case scenario.
Who said give him one of the left field seats?
Luke Jackson brought that up. Again, I'm all for it. If you can do it, find something clever. If you can come up with a framed picture of him hitting the intentional walk pitch for a home run, something like that, do it. But the best thing to do, just give everybody crab cakes. It's not hard. It's a thing we have that no one else has. They can't do that in Colorado. Like when he makes his last trip to Seattle.
Some Colorado crabs.
Yeah, some old Colorado crabs. It's not hard to get this right. And whatever I know is the answer isn't a brick. Again, it's not the end of the world. I think they had good intentions. I think somebody believed it was a sweet, thoughtful gift. It's just that you can't make Miguel Cabrera care about the history of the B&O warehouse. I don't know what they're provincial about in, Colorado. I don't know what's something in Colorado that matters to them about their stadium. But if you brought it, imagine giving it to you. Imagine somebody coming back tomorrow like, hey, Griffin, I was in Denver, and you know what I got you? Here's this patch of grass from, Dante Bichette's final game in Denver. You're going to be like, wow.
Thank you.
Cool. And never think about it.
Coors Light.
That's you have to be capable of understanding that the thing that you care about, even if you care about it deeply, you can't make someone else care about it. You can't. I bless you. Bless your heart for caring so much. I love you. God bless. Sorry, I can't. I just did it again. But it goes back to the Buster Olney thing.
So you do care?
No, it's my comparison to Buster. Like, why do you care about Buster Olney?
Well, anyway, my Buster Olney point. I'm gonna start calling him Buster Lonely because as I was typing his name, it auto-corrected from Olney to Lonely, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I think that is what we should call him.
What is your beef with Buster?
Picking on the Orioles. Don't like it.
Oh, for God's sake.
Batters facing Shohei Ohtani for the third time in a game, so their third time through the lineup this season. They are 0 for 24 with 15 strikeouts against Shohei Ohtani, third time through the lineup. He's really good.
I don't know what to say. It's insane. I did see that tweet this weekend. It's nuts. It's bonkers. I mean, I guess it's bonkers that any pitcher is facing a batter for a third time these days, but it's even more bonkers.
TNT, so yesterday they aired back-to-back Boston games with the NBA and NHL playoffs, and both games were called by Jim Jackson. There was a Jim Jackson broadcaster, hockey broadcaster, Jim Jackson basketball broadcaster.
How about
calling both the Boston games?
I don't know Jim Jackson.
Each Jim Jackson played for the hockey guy played for the Phillies, the Flyers.
Okay.
And the basketball Jim Jackson played for the Sixers.
Well, how about that?
Tidbit. Gavin Sheets hit the highest pitch anyone has homered offered in the last 3 years. There's been over 14,000 home runs hit since 2020, and someone put together, Jay Kuda put together a graphic of all of those hits. That was on Saturday, actually, and Gavin Sheets hit the highest one. So here's the graphic. If you can
Damn.
see.
Yeah, I
He hit
can't
the one.
see.
It's about.
I don't know if you can show that. Can you show that on the
it's
camera
about,
somehow?
It's about a full foot above the.
Yeah, that is significantly. Wow, that is an outlier.
Yes. So Gavin Sheets hit the tallest.
That little
highest
guy.
pitched
I
home
wouldn't
run,
worry about that little guy.
in the since 2020. Also yesterday, Adolis Garcia hit 3 home runs and 2 doubles. He became the 4th player ever to have 3 home runs and 2 doubles in a game. He also became the 9th player since 2008 to have 5 extra base hits in a game. I would like to see.
Yeah, not okay. Say it one more time while I think about it.
All right, so 5 extra base hits.
Yeah.
In a game since 2008. There have been 9 guys to do it. Adolis Garcia is the most recent. They're all, you know what, let's get 6 of them. You should be able to get 6 of them.
It's 2008, you
Yes.
say.
Yes.
Trout.
Not Mike Trout.
Cabrera.
Not Miguel Cabrera. Yeah.
This isn't great.
I know. Well, there's some random names, but that's why I like it, because I like the random names. There is a Cardinal. He did it with the Cardinals, not currently a Cardinal. Not Pujols.
Active player.
It is an active player.
Played for the Cardinals.
He did this in 2018 with the Cardinals.
Not a Cardinal anymore.
He is currently on the Padres.
Currently on. Oh my God. Oh my God. I know.
He was hitting like Babe Ruth last year. For the Yankees. He didn't play the full season with the Yankees. But when he was
shut up!
playing.
Shut up! Now, it doesn't. Whenever you think you're helping, you're not actually helping, because like my brain is going somewhere, and then I'm like, wait, what? Like Matt Carpenter.
Matt Carpenter.
Yeah,
Yes.
it took
5
me a
extra
minute.
base hits in 2018.
I didn't remember him being a Yankee last season.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, because he was ridiculous last year with the Yankees.
All right.
For like the 2 months that he played.
All right. Harper.
Not Bryce Harper.
Oh, for God's sake,
Yeah.
who is on this list?
There's a guy.
Are they good players?
Yeah, they are good players.
How am I supposed to come up with Matt Carpenter?
I don't know.
What is this?
Hey, all right, and this guy did it against the Orioles.
When?
2012.
Well, we were watching then.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago, though. Who'd he play for?
He played for the Texas Rangers.
Played for the Tejas Rangers in 2012. Adrian Beltre.
Not Adrian Beltre. He had a ridiculous game.
He had Josh Hamilton.
Hamilton, yes. The Josh Hamilton game. He had 5 extra base hits in that game.
We got to move. It's 12:27. Somehow we've done this again.
Okay. All right, fine. Do you want to switch it to can you name the 3 other guys that Matt Carpenter was one of them? The three other guys that hit 3 homers and 2 doubles in a game.
No.
One of them did it in 2016. The other did it in 2020. You're not going to get him. This guy did it in 2016.
All right, it's too. Just tell me.
You just tell you.
It's 12:27, man. We can't do this all day.
It's Chris Bryant of the Cubs.
Okay.
In 2016, and then
All right.
Alex Dickerson of the Giants.
I don't know that I've ever heard that name before. I'm not sure that I have any familiarity with Alex Dickerson.
He's kind of a journeyman. He's not even on the team this year. Alex Dickerson, at least not a major league roster.
Okay.
This year.
I've never heard that. And who else was on the first list?
It was the player the rest of the
yes
there. Yeah, well, I liked it because they were such random names.
But that's the problem. That doesn't make for a good.
I know. Luis Arias did it for the Milwaukee
You
Brewers.
thought that I was supposed to get.
Well, he was one of the ones I ruled out. Jose Ramirez.
Okay, well, that one I probably could have gotten.
Jackie Bradley Jr. had 5 extra base hits in a game in 2015.
All right.
And then Kelly Shopik in 2008.
What?
Orioles killer Kelly
You
Shopik.
chose that list to be the trivia today?
I like this list. 5 extra base hits. Kelly Shopik on the list. And Alex Dickerson. Alex Dickerson, one of 4 guys ever to have 3 homers and 2 doubles.
That is rough, man.
Before yesterday, was one of 3 guys ever.
Do you like this show? Do you just not want to be? I know you're trying to get another job, but like, do you just not want to be here anymore? You do one Mount St. Mary's women's lacrosse game, and all of a sudden you're trying to burn it all down.
That was a barn burner.
Oh yeah, how'd it go?
5-4.
Ooh,
and we had a
tough game to call.
3-hour plus.
Yeah, it was an unpleasant day on Saturday.
Lightning delay for 3+ hours.
Well, you could have had something. I had something weirder than that. It wasn't 3.5 hours. I had a 15-minute malfunctioning horn delay on Saturday. The horn at the Loyola game was just randomly going off, and it took 15 minutes for them to be able to shut down the horn completely and just use an air horn instead. It was a whole. So everybody's coming off the field. And I'm like, oh no, we're going into weather delay. So as a broadcaster, I react accordingly. I said, well, I have the unfortunate responsibility to tell you that we're going into a weather delay. And then I noticed they're lingering on the field for a second. I'm like, or maybe they're not. Because I had heard the horn go off, but it was only one time, so I didn't think anything of it. And then I hear it again. I'm like, I'm starting to wonder if it might be related to that funky horn we're hearing in the background. Sure enough, twas. That was a first for me. First ever horn delay that I have dealt with in my broadcasting career. But didn't go 3 hours. 15 minutes, and then we were right back at it. And as Christian Taylor showed up to do the women's game after me, I said, hey, bud, I'm so sorry. I think you're going to have a long day ahead of you. I don't know how it played out. Man. All right, Tubular brought to you by Birdland Sports. Again, you can get your own Homer hose right now from birdlandsports.com. $15. Get there right now to get your Homer hose, birdlandsports.com. And don't forget, speaking of hydration and the weather and it warming up, I know it cooled down again on Sunday, but A.J. Michaels is there for you as AC season is coming up. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season's coming up. New rebates and discounts are available at ajmichaels.com. Here's what's coming up tonight, Totally Tubular. As we mentioned, the Orioles start their series with the Red Sox. Dean Kramer is on the mound against Chris Sale, 6:35 on Masson, and the rest of the country will see it on MLB Network. Locally, MLB Network will have Astros Rays at the same time. FS1 tonight for Athletics Angels at 9:30, ESPN Plus, Rockies Guardians at 6. They start games at 6 in Cleveland. Who knew? TNT tonight for Bucks Heat Game 4 at 7:30. Still no Giannis?
Good question.
All right.
Find out right now.
Grizzlies Lakers Game 4 at 10. We do believe Ja Morant is playing for that one. What about Dylan Brooks? Are they just gonna maybe politely say, hey, DB, maybe you get tonight off?
Stop doing stuff.
Maybe we just shut you down for the rest of the postseason. Maybe that's the case. ESPN Devils Rangers Game 4 at 7. Golden Knights Jets Game 4 at 9:30. TBS Leafs Lightning Game 4 at 7:30. Avalanche Kraken Game 4 at 10. And the USA Network tonight, WWE Monday Night Raw at 8.
Giannis is back.
Okay, so that is significant as they are down 2-1 in that series. Non-sports highlights.
Nothing outside of just the late nights. Jimmy Kimmel's gonna have James Corden. James Corden, this is his final week doing the late
God,
show
I'm so
on
sad.
CBS.
I will miss.
So he's got he's got some star-studded guest lineup for the week.
Never watched
Yal
a
Yaddo,
single moment.
or Yal
yeah,
Yaddo. Yeah.
Okay.
And Ray Romano on tonight for James Corden.
Great.
And then Rainn Wilson's going to be on Jimmy Fallon because he has a show coming out on Peacock. It is called Rainn Wilson and the Geography of Bliss. And he's just traveling the world.
I know he's an interesting cat.
Trying to find happiness.
I think he was buddies with Blake Griffin or something. They were like
really?
I think they might have even tried to do a buddy cop picture together at one point. But I don't know if that's something for me. I like Rainn Wilson, don't get me wrong, but I realize
he's become very he's got a new book as well called Soul Boom.
Yeah.
It's about spirituality and
that's
stuff.
the thing. God bless you, man. I'm happy for you, but I just don't think it's for me. Anything else?
That is it. That is it. Slow night.
That was abrupt.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks to a guest today. Thanks to Jeremy Conn. Thanks to Al Bernstein and to Tony Skinn. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, anything?
Yeah, we're gonna have Matt Shaw.
Oh, right, Maryland baseball.
Maryland
they are
baseball.
playing UMBC at UMBC. So if you want to see Maryland baseball, who's been having a very good season, Matt Shaw could be a first-round pick in the MLB draft. Actually, could end up being around. Where do the Orioles pick this year?
I guess they picked
around
right
18th
middle, right?
or so, something like that. Who knows? Maybe they could be looking at Matt Shaw, who's having a great season for Maryland. He's going to join us tomorrow before they play at UMBC tomorrow night. So a chance for you to see them locally.
17th
Terps.
is the Orioles
17th.
pick. Yes.
I think he's more like in the 20s, 30s range, but who knows?
They like him. Yeah.
Who knows? It's an interesting name to keep thinking about. So we'll talk to Matt Shaw.
Steve Eigenbrod,
Steve Eigenbrot.
That's what I said.
Yes.
That's what I
No,
said.
it's not what you said.
Steve Eigenbrot.
No. Yeah, he's the athletic director at Towson. They made an announcement last week about their own NIL collective that they're launching, so he'll tell us about that. Patrick Stevens will join us tomorrow. We'll talk about Hopkins getting a huge win over Maryland. Really great game on Saturday night, and Hopkins gets a huge win there. All right. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including A.J. Michaels, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Hartford Community College, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass is how you follow him. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks.